Part 35. Evolution begins with Resident Evil. Author, Wei Tongmiao. Chapter 349. Ashley is a good girl, innocent and gentle to others. Although she has a father who is the president, she doesn't have a princess temper. How could Luo Guang not see that the other party was interested in him? He was worried about how to avoid hurting a good girl like Ashley, or to minimize the harm to the other party. In terms of love, he had little experience before and after the crossing, and could be said to be a love rookie. His system is not a love system. Although he has become stronger, he is still himself. There will be no changes in his personality and other aspects, which will instantly make him a love expert. So even if he asks the system about these things, he will probably only get a sentence like, "For the evolution of mankind, go and reproduce." It's easy for a woman to chase a man. As Ashley's offensive becomes more and more obvious and fierce, Luo Guang is not a wooden man. How could he not feel anything? But he made a mistake a long time ago. "I'm sorry, Jill, he can't make this mistake again." Leon told Ashley that he had a girlfriend, but the other party did not give up now, but expressed herself more actively. The girlfriend card didn't stop Ashley, and he didn't know what to do next. On the other hand, Jill and him might have a suspension bridge effect. Luo Guang, who had just traveled to this world, was attracted to Jill, and Jill was also attracted to Luo Guang, who had solved his insomnia and PTSD. So the feelings of both parties would heat up quickly when they faced difficulties together, and they confirmed their relationship on the night they left Raccoon City. The relationship between him and Jill was not like that of ordinary people, who had to spend so much time together before confirming their relationship. After that, the two of them had their own jobs, and they began to spend more time apart and less time together, becoming a long-distance relationship. The two of them could occasionally send text messages to each other or make international calls. Even though he would immediately go to Jill to live together for a month or two when he was free in the following years, they didn't actually go out for a date, just occasionally go out for a meal or something like that. Not only Luo Guang, Jill also had no experience in love, and didn't understand the process of dating. The only time Luo Guang could feel the passion and enthusiasm for love was when it was late at night, when he was exercising late at night, and when the two of them were relying on each other for comfort. He felt that he and Jill seemed to have skipped the honeymoon period and jumped directly into the state of mutual respect between an old married couple. Well, since both of them were not short of money, they did not quarrel over the daily necessities. That's why he decided to take Jill on a trip and have a good relationship. President Graham suddenly felt a little annoyed when he heard Luo Guang's answer. This was not what he wanted to ask. He knew his daughter's advantages much better than the other man. In order to prevent his daughter in the room from hearing the conversation, he lowered his voice and asked seriously, "That's not what I meant. I want to ask what you think of my daughter? Since my daughter is so outstanding, do you like her?" Luo Guang did not answer directly, but said silently, "Mr. Graham, I have a girlfriend." "What?" President Graham was very surprised. He had expected the other party's possible answer, but he didn't think of this at all. He didn't care to keep his face serious, and asked quickly, "Have you told Ashley about this?" He asked this because he actually suspected that Luo Guang wanted to play both sides. But President Graham thought again, if that was the case, there was no need for Luo Guang to tell him that he had a girlfriend, right? Leon said he had told Ashley this. After telling Ashley this, Leon also contacted Luo Guang to explain it to him. So after the incident with the Church of Light, Luo Guang never took the initiative to contact Ashley, just thinking that time would slowly erase the other party's feelings, just like what Leon did in the biochemical game. Until the Portland incident involved the GIMZ troops, he had to contact Ashley and wanted to use his connections to ask the president for help. After hearing this, President Graham realized that it was his daughter who was unwilling to give up, and this character was very similar to his own. But Ashley didn't give up. Sure enough, he heard Luo Guang take the initiative to say this, and he seemed very distressed. President Graham replied, "You told me this so that I can stop her. It's less harmful than if I reject her directly, right?" Luo Guang said uncertainly. "I can't stop my daughter. She won't give up easily if she decides to do something." President Graham shook his head. He was still thinking about saying to Luo Guang, "It's better to suffer a short pain than a long pain." Telling her directly that you can't be together may be the best way. But when the words came to his lips, he hesitated, worried that this would make Ashley depressed. His daughter's background, figure, appearance, and moral cultivation are all excellent, so why doesn't Luo Guang like her? President Graham couldn't explain this question to his daughter clearly. What if his daughter gave up on herself and didn't love herself? Or what if his daughter refused to give up no matter what? As for asking Luo Guang to break up with his girlfriend and be with his daughter, he couldn't do that either. Thinking of this, he barely understood Luo Guang's dilemma. Graham suddenly asked, "What do you think of Leon? He also has someone he likes." Luo Guang knew what the other party meant by this, but he would not do such a thing. This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading. "Then you let Leon behave like this, isn't it for this?" "Of course not," Luo Guang quickly denied it. He just didn't want to stand out too much, and Leon was acting in his true colors. He didn't explain anything specifically. There are many ways to deal with Ashley's love for him, such as memory clearing surgery, and his own control ability, but doing those things to Ashley is too scumbag. If there is really no way to deal with this matter, it is better to suffer a short pain than a long pain. Finally, Graham still said this, paused, and continued, "But let's talk about it later, she is drunk tonight." He was afraid that Ashley would get too excited and think too much. Of course, Luo Guang also understood that it is the best way to cut it off when it is necessary. Before, he was just avoiding and wanted someone to push him. Although this dinner party had some accidents at the end, it was still good overall. The First Lady arranged for Ashley, who had fallen asleep drunk, to change her into pajamas and cover her with a blanket. Then she left the room and went to find her husband. She wanted to talk to President Graham about her daughter. As soon as she came up, the First Lady asked, "What did you just talk about on the balcony?" Graham simply began to explain the situation. Luo Guang didn't answer directly whether he liked Ashley. The First Lady interrupted. President Graham naturally noticed this and said, "Our daughter is so outstanding, and she still pursues her. How can a normal man resist her charm? It would be strange if he didn't have a good impression, but he already has a girlfriend. It can only be said that it was too late for her daughter to meet someone she likes. In this case, I think my daughter still has a chance. After all, they are just boyfriend and girlfriend, not husband and wife. Who knows if they will be together in the future? If her daughter is allowed to be a mistress or lover, the First Lady will never be willing to do so." Then she asked, "By the way, who is Luo Guang's girlfriend?" "I didn't ask, and you don't have to ask about it." President Graham would not resort to dirty tricks to win love for his daughter. Even if his daughter knew about this, she would definitely cut off relations with him. "Of course I understand, I'm just curious." Skipping this question, Graham continued what they said on the balcony. Indeed, a short pain is worse than a long pain. Hearing her husband say that, the First Lady nodded. "I don't want it." Just as President Graham was about to answer, Ashley's voice suddenly sounded behind them. Luo Guang and Leon said goodbye to the president's family and left the White House. Walking on the road, Leon looked at Luo Guang, who was worried, and suddenly asked, "I have someone I like." "Why are you the same as President Graham?" "I don't plan to push you to Ashley." Luo Guang forced a smile. "I don't quite understand what makes you so fascinated by Ada. Maybe it's because every time we meet, we feel like we've just been separated for a long time." Leon shrugged and said, there is no standard answer to love matters. No standard is annoying. Resident Evil is not as troublesome as this. Then what are you going to do? Continue to drag it out? A man should decisively give the other party a definite answer. Wait a few days, it is indeed not good to drag it out any longer, Luo Guang replied. Alas, you often teased me about my good popularity with women before, and you are not bad either. It is not common for the other party to be bullied like this, so Leon did not miss the opportunity and said, now you understand that this is not a good thing, right? I'm here. Do you want to come up and sit for a while? Lion's dormitory is very close to the White House, so he arrived there in a short while. No, I have to think about this carefully. Luo Guang shook his head, and Leon did not insist. He said goodbye to the other party and walked into the apartment building. Alas! Luo Guang turned around and walked towards the hotel where he was staying. There weren't many pedestrians in this area at night, and there were many guards outside the White House, all of them were agents. Luo Guang glanced around and could tell who were the agents at a glance. He went to confirm these just to distract his attention a little, not to fight to vent. Luo Guang. Suddenly, a man in pajamas ran over in front of him and called Luo Guang's name. The people around couldn't help but look over, but soon moved away. Only the agents who knew the man in pajamas were wandering around and guarding. They received the president's order and kept a distance, not thinking of eavesdropping. Ashley. Luo Guang looked at Ashley, whose face was a little ruddy, and was a little surprised that she ran out in pajamas. Perhaps after the training of agents, this 1-kilometer sprint was not a difficult task for her. After a few slow breaths, she was able to breathe smoothly. Ashley, how did you know I was here? Because he was too surprised, Luo Guang didn't expect that the other party would know just by asking the guard. Ashley looked directly into Luo Guang's eyes and whispered back, the guard said you and Leon went this way, so I wondered if you went to Leon's dormitory. Are you sober? Luo Guang said, if you can't drink enough, it's better to drink less. It goes up quickly, but the alcohol smell dissipates quickly, which is the advantage of being young. I don't usually drink, and I don't go to bars or anything like that. She just wanted to try the wine Luo Guang brought tonight. This chapter is not over, please click on the next page to continue reading. In fact, during the first cup, Ashley was already a little high. It was just that Luo Guang was telling the story about the mission of the light cult at that time, and she didn't speak much, so no one noticed. Then don't. Before Luo Guang finished speaking, Ashley suddenly interrupted, sorry. What's wrong? Luo Guang didn't understand why she apologized. While I was eating, I said some not so nice things. Luo Guang smiled and said, oh, I didn't care about that sentence. And you're right. I really don't like that kind of occasion. It's the same as when I went to a classmate's house when I was a child and met each other's parents. Same. What kind of metaphor are you talking about? Is your classmate's father also the president? Ashley smiled slightly. Yes, Ashley thought to herself, occasionally saying something funny and inadvertently making herself laugh. This is what Luo Guang would say. Luo Guang also smiled and replied, that's not the case. The conversation suddenly ended, and there was silence between the two. Luo Guang broke the awkward atmosphere and said, Ashley, it's getting colder tonight, be careful of catching a cold. Well, I'll go back first. Ashley nodded and turned to leave, but after taking a few steps, she stopped. Looking back at Luo Guang who was watching her, she waved her hand, then turned around and went home. In the end, she still couldn't express what was in her heart. She thought in her heart. Although she loudly denied her parents' words at home, Ashley couldn't understand that the chances of this war were slim. What her parents said was correct. She tried to muster up the courage and planned to take advantage of the drunkenness to speak out what was in her heart, to ask for a result, and to draw a line to this war. But in the end, she still couldn't say it. Even if she lost the war, she still hoped to create more memories with the other party and didn't want the two of them to become strangers. Luo Guang also waved goodbye to the other party, lowered his head and whispered, "I couldn't say anything." He also failed to follow his previous decision and do something that would cause less long-term pain than short-term pain and give Ashley a clear answer. Early the next morning, after much thought, Luo Guang sent a text message to Leon and Ashley each, telling them that he had something to do and would leave Washington today. Leon responded to Luo Guang's text message, but Ashley did not reply. Originally, he planned to stay in Washington for 2 or 3 more days before leaving, but after what happened last night, Luo Guang chose to leave as if to escape. If it hadn't been for last night's plane ticket being gone, he would have fled Washington long ago. The airport began broadcasting flight boarding reminders. Alas, Luo Guang sighed, took his luggage, and boarded the plane. Evolution begins with Resident Evil. Author, Wei Tongmiao. Chapter 350. After leaving Washington, Luo Guang first went to the manufacturing plant of the metal industry company and took back his customized straight knife. Originally, he planned to buy some TG-01 special alloy, but was told that there was no sales plan for the time being. It seems that the relationship between Organization X and the metal industry company is not simple. Then he returned to the mysterious country without stopping. Luo Guang had snatched the grappling gun from Ada before. Although it was of little use to him who could jump several stories high, it was still quite useful to the GIMZ troops and Leon. The reason why Leon was mentioned here is because Luo Guang planned to give him a grappling gun so that he could use it to chase Ada. Luo Guang handed this thing over to another factory in the mysterious country for processing, increasing local tax revenue and raising the employment rate. Therefore, the local people turned a blind eye to the production of such a vaguely positioned tool. Anyway, all the products produced were finally sold abroad. Luo Guang confirmed the transportation, ate the hometown food before crossing, and then left the mysterious country and set off for San Francisco, the lighthouse country. He went there to visit someone. But before that, he still stopped by the Donald family branch to get his own CIA documents and gun license. All these documents are genuine, and the relevant information can also be found in the CIA system, but no matter when he checks, he is on an outing. Luo Guang pushed open the single iron door of the Kendo gun store in San Francisco and walked in. The owner of this Kendo gun store is named Joe Kendo, the biological brother of Robert Kendo in Raccoon City. It can be said that the Kendo gun store here is the head office. Joe is also a legendary gunsmith, and the reason why Luo Guang came here is naturally to prepare a special custom pistol for himself. This is why he deliberately asked the Donald family to open up a relationship for him to get the CIA certificate. With this thing, he can directly carry a gun on the plane in many places, and even travel abroad with a gun. Originally, he thought about whether to get a custom gun for Jill. After all, her samurai blade was lost in Raccoon City. However, considering that this weapon was to be used for fighting, he was worried that his customization would not meet the other party's combat needs, but the other party did not want to waste his efforts and cause any mistakes during the battle. When Luo Guang entered, a customer in his 40s or 50s took the gun box containing the customized weapon from Joe, so he did not rush over, but visited the guns in the gun store. Gun stores are like women's clothing stores for men, so Luo Guang did not feel bored, just to see if there are any new models of guns recently. After collecting the money and sending the customer away, Joe Kendo looked at Luo Guang, who was still looking at the gun, and took the initiative to say, "Is this customer here to customize it?" Luo Guang turned around and said, "Can you tell from this? Because those who come here to buy guns basically think about what guns they want to buy early in the morning, and few people come here to look around like shopping in a supermarket." Joe not only looks at guns, but also looks at people very accurately. As soon as Luo Guang came in, he knew that the other party came to customize weapons. "Yes, I do want to customize a handgun," and money is not a problem. TG-01 special alloy is not available. Luo Guang also wants to use hardened armor to make the material of the new gun, but in the end he feels that it is unnecessary, so he finally gives up the idea. Money is not a problem for me, but I don't accept customized weapons from everyone. Do you have any requirements for who you are? Of course, the weapons I carefully made cannot fall into the hands of incompetent people and evil people. This Kendo also has his own pride. What about the survivors of Raccoon City? Luo Guang directly reported this identity. Hearing the name of Raccoon City, Joe narrowed his eyes, stared at Luo Guang up and down, and said, "Do you know my brother? I have heard of the name, but I have never dealt with him. But when I fled Raccoon City, I fled with Jill and Patton from STARS. That happened more than 2 years ago. Why did you come to customize weapons today? What do you use guns for?" Joe missed his brother. "There are more and more biochemical crises in the world, and I need more handy weapons to deal with them. Only use a pistol? I think it's not too much to use a larger caliber to deal with biochemical monsters." Joe also hates biochemical crises. That's right, but in terms of portability, a pistol is still the best choice. "How do I know if what you said is true or false?" Joe asked, looking at the Beretta M92F pistol in his hand. Luo Guang replied directly, "You can ask Patton directly. My name is Luo Guang. If you don't believe it, you can also ask Leon." The SG Kendo used by Leon in the mission of the Church of Light gave the design plan. The reason why Leon went to Joe Kendo was that he talked about this matter when he talked to Chris one day, so Chris recommended him to find Joe to customize the weapon. When Joe heard this, he called Patton immediately without any hesitation, and quickly confirmed that Luo Guang did not lie. But he did not hang up the phone afterwards, because Patton also thought about the problem of Jill's customized weapon being lost, so he thought about asking Joe to help make a new samurai blade. "I understand. I'll have him bring it to Jill after it's done." Joe still remembered Jill's affairs and the other parties' customization requirements. After saying that, he hung up the phone. Since Patton had confirmed that the other party was Jill's boyfriend, there was no need to confirm it with Leon, so he turned to Luo Guang and said, "Come in." Joe closed the store and invited Luo Guang to the area behind the gun store, which was his workshop for making customized weapons and also a shooting range for testing guns. Then he invited Luo Guang to sit on a chair, and he took out a piece of white paper and a pen, and said, "Next, I need to get to know you first, so that I can better customize weapons for you. By the way, are you free next time?" "Yes. But this kind of thing should be said in advance." "I'm old," Chiao replied casually, and began to ask, "Let's start. What is the main application scenario of your gun? Can you explain it in detail?" Luo Guang thought for a while and said, "It's more used to deal with biochemical monsters such as zombies, but because biochemical crises occur everywhere in the world, the environment is changeable, cold, hot, dry, and wet, but it is still mainly used in urban combat. After all, biochemical crises only occur where there are people, and those biochemical terrorists also like to go to cities to cause damage." Chiao nodded. He was not surprised by this, but the other party said it as if he often went to various parts of the world to prevent biochemical crises. "In general, do you only carry pistols?" Chiao asked again after recording it. "It depends on the situation. If you can buy a long gun or a short gun, take it. If you don't have one, forget it." Chiao showed a strange expression on his face and said, "What do you mean by forget it?" "I am quite good at fighting, but fighting those disgusting monsters in close combat is easy to get stuck with those smelly liquids." Luo Guang, who has fought with many fighting masters, believes that it is easy to fight 100 professional boxers. After all, the opponent can't break his defense. "I feel that your focus is a bit strange. Isn't it because you are afraid of infection that you want to use a gun?" Chiao complained, and then continued to ask, "Then do you have a prototype gun that suits your taste?" I used to use Beretta's 92 series pistols, but I have also used Glock and the like. Luo Guang continued, in 2000, I bought an M-type prototype pistol, but that gun was not officially launched. Later, for some reasons, I sold it to someone else. That someone else was Ji Xiu, the prince of a certain underground force who was rescued by Luo Guang in the ruins of the Amazon rainforest. One of the reasons why Luo Guang changed hands was that it was too troublesome to take the gun out of England. Chiao raised his hand to interrupt Luo Guang, stood up and said, I know that model. Beretta also invited me to join the informal committee to discuss how to upgrade the 92-96 series pistols. As he spoke, he took out a box with the Beretta logo from the cabinet behind him. This is the prototype gun that Beretta gave me after the finalization. Let's use this gun as the body for customization. But isn't this the limited edition collector's edition given to you by Beretta? Luo Guang was a little surprised that the other party would choose to use the prototype gun in his hand. The value of the gun is not for viewing. Chiao paused and said, of course I will charge you according to the collection price, but I won't give it to you. Okay. Luo Guang looked at the old man in front of him and smiled. Joe nodded, got back on track, and continued to ask, do you have any requirements for the custom gun? Yes, there are only 3 requirements. Of course Luo Guang has requirements. As he spoke, he handed the paper in his pocket directly to Joe. 1. Strong, durable, and collision resistant, you can directly smash the zombie's head with a pistol when necessary. When Joe saw the first requirement, he was completely confused. Was he really taking a custom job for a gun? Instead of customizing a fire stick called a gun? He put his doubts in his heart and planned to continue reading and ask one last time. 2. The requirement for accuracy is to shoot wherever you point. Joe couldn't stand it anymore. The other party's requirements were too weird, as if he didn't know anything about the business. He used to make custom weapons for Raccoon City STARS, and the Raccoon City Police Department only required that the error within a shooting distance of 25 yards, about 23 meters, should not exceed 2 inches, about 5 centimeters. Looking up at Luo Guang, who looked innocent, he said, do you mean 0 error at a certain distance by pointing and shooting? That's a little hard to explain. By the way, do you have 2 weapons of the same model but with different quality? I don't have any weapons of poor quality, Chiao said without hesitation. Then give me a Desert Eagle for shooting, and I'll show you how to do it, Luo Guang said. Anyway, Luo Guang's strength and other skills would have to be tested later, so Chiao didn't refuse. Then Luo Guang showed him how to stabilize the Desert Eagle with one hand and continuously pull the trigger to shoot all the bullets into the bullseye. Pressing the button on the wall, the target paper moved in front of the 2 of them. Luo Guang said, even if I can stabilize the Desert Eagle, I still can't shoot into the same bullet hole if I pull the trigger continuously. I think it's amazing to shoot a flower with this gun continuously. Chiao finally understood what he meant. Luo Guang replied, I know that, but if that's all you want, there's no need for me to come to you, Chiao, to customize it, right? I know you like to challenge yourself. After all, the gun is assembled with various parts, so even if he uses his own strength to stabilize the gun, the recoil will still affect the parts other than the grip when firing continuously. This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. So since he wants to make a custom weapon, he must make the best. Hearing the other party's words, Chiao seemed to have a ball of fire in his eyes, and Luo Guang's words ignited his inner passion. Indeed, the other party can shoot a flower with a weapon with a large recoil like the Desert Eagle, so the only thing the other party can pursue is the limit. It's not the limit of a person, but the limit of a gun. I think you are more like making things difficult for me, but I still have to complain. After thinking for a while, Joe said, one-piece pistol, if it's a revolver, it's okay, but with the existing technology, it's basically impossible to make one piece with a Beretta pistol. This is determined by the basic structure of the semi-automatic pistol. But the recoil of this Beretta pistol is not as strong as that of the Desert Eagle. If I use the 92 series, the small spots when shooting are no longer obvious, but the small spots will become more and more obvious after using it for a long time. Luo Guang has a M92F pistol that he has used for a long time in the GIMZ troops in South Africa, which is specially used to show off his skills and stun his subordinates. I see, I understand what you mean. Joe nodded and looked at the third requirement on the paper. 3. Handsome. This is another more abstract requirement. Joe felt a little tired and asked, don't you have any requirements for sights, grips, weight, functions, etc.? In fact, most of the designs of the Vertec type have met my requirements. Weight is not a problem for me. I have good endurance and strength. Hearing this, Joe suddenly had an idea and thought of how to solve Luo Guang's first requirement. To smash the zombie's head, sturdiness is the most important thing. Seeing that the other party held the Desert Eagle steadily with one hand and fired, it seems that he has enough strength. Therefore, in order to exert the power of swinging and smashing people, the simplest way is to make the gun heavier. This is completely different from the needs of many departments. At that time, the Raccoon City Police Department required the weight of the pistol with an empty magazine to be less than 1,000 grams. The weight of the Vertec pistol in my hand is very light, only 915 grams under the same conditions, but I didn't expect that I would need to increase the weight to meet the other party's requirements. But in this way, the original parts of the Vertec pistol may not be used, and a new gun shell needs to be customized. In the end, Joe made up his mind and decided to make one from scratch, but there may be some legal issues involved, so he may not be able to engrave his store name on the gun body. If you want to be handsome, can you be more specific? I think black or silver pistols are handsome, and as a gunsmith, you naturally understand men's preferences. You are right, but your statement is a bit easy to make people misunderstand that there is something wrong with my orientation. Joe complained again. Fortunately, the other party only has color requirements for handsomeness. If there are any requirements for appearance, then the difficulty of this job will at least increase several times. Next, I will check your body to see your strength, palm size, etc. Not only that, there are also height/weight strategies, body muscle strength, vision testing, and other data that need to be collected. Only in this way can Joe Kendo make the most exclusive weapons for customers. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Evolution begins with Resident Evil. Author, Wei Tongmiao. Chapter 351. It took a whole week to make the gun, and then Joe Kendo called Luo Guang and asked him to go get the goods. During this week, Luo Guang did not leave San Francisco, because Joe would call him at any time to discuss the issue of the weapon. He went to Kendo gun store, looked at Joe, who looked a little haggard but had bright eyes, and said, "Thank you for your hard work. Don't talk so much nonsense, try the gun quickly." Joe was anxious and pulled Luo Guang into the shooting range behind the store. At the shooting range, a very special-looking pistol was placed on the gun rack. Dominator, Luo Guang was stunned. It looked a bit like a weapon in an animation he had seen before he crossed over. Joe was used to Luo Guang sometimes saying strange things, and he was too lazy to complain now, saying, "Dominator is a good name, but I also gave it a name, called R-9. Red-9, Luo Guang thought of the Mauser pistol in Lewis's hand. Robot-9, Joe corrected and explained, "I got the inspiration from the movie RoboCop. The protagonist's special weapon is called Auto-9 semi-automatic pistol, so I changed the name to this." Fortunately, Luo Guang's physical fitness is the strongest he has ever seen, otherwise he would not have chosen to borrow the weapons in the science fiction movie as a template to customize weapons for Luo Guang. For Joe, The concept of the Auto-9 semi-automatic pistol in the movie can be said to kill 3 birds with 1 stone. First of all, this gun is handsome enough, and it was a weapon that many boys and men liked back then. After he changed the shape to confirm that it would not infringe, the main color of the shell was black, but the thick and thin grooves of the gun body were outlined with silver, which are the colors Luo Guang likes. The second is to solve the problem of accuracy required by Luo Guang. The method is very simple and crude. A shell that is integrated with the grip is wrapped on the original gun parts, and then a layer of anti-collision and anti-wear layer is filled between the shell and the internal parts to minimize the impact of the gun recoil on the parts. Of course, the shell still has the ejection port and the position and space for the barrel to slide, to ensure that it does not affect the use of the pistol. Because the muzzle is far away from the grip, it is easily affected by recoil, so Joe also thickened the thickness of the front part of the gun to increase the weight. Anyway, Luo Guang is strong enough, so that little weight has no effect on Luo Guang. And the last is Luo Guang's request to use the gun to hit the zombies. According to Joe, the bottom of the muzzle brake can also be used to hit people. And in order to allow Luo Guang to have more postures to hit people, he extended a bulge forward on the forward side of the grip below. It is more convenient to hit people here, and hitting people at that position will have less impact on the weapon. So this R-9 pistol looks like a muzzle brake that is larger than the gun of RoboCop, but more like the gun of the Dominator. The whole gun is 25.6 centimeters long and weighs 2.7 kilograms. It uses 9mm pistol bullets, which are the easiest to replenish bullets, with a capacity of 20 add 1 rounds. The function of hanging up the gun without a gun is retained, and the finger groove of the grip is also customized to fit Luo Guang's hand shape. However, this gun does not have a tactical rail. In Joe's words, it is easy to damage it if it is installed with those tactical equipment, which is not worth the loss. Anyway, the most used tactical equipment on Luo Guang's pistol is the flashlight, and you can use a headlamp or a chest light, so it doesn't matter. Luo Guang picked up the R-9 pistol and played with it lovingly. Try it. Seeing that the other party was so happy, he was also very satisfied. Luo Guang nodded, raised the gun with one hand, and then kept pulling the trigger to shoot as before. This time all the bullets hit the same bullet hole. "Thank you," Luo Guang thanked. "You're welcome, please settle the bill, round off the decimals and you will pay $120,000. Joe directly asked for money, and even added, "The holster is also ready, so I'll give it to you for free." Because basically all parts have to be molded separately, the price is not outrageous. The previous M-type pistol was not used for modification, so it was saved. Because the gun is relatively large, the holster is placed behind the waist. Luo Guang tried to put on the holster and adjusted it to a comfortable angle, then he put the gun in and took it out. He felt that it was easier to put it in, but it was a little slower to take it out than before, but it was not a big problem. Then he took out the gun, handed it to Joe, and said, "Engrave your name on it." In this lighthouse country, it is not illegal for individuals to make their own weapons, but it is illegal to sell them. So Joe did not engrave Kendo Gun Shop on the gun. Luo Guang also knew this, so he recommended Joe to secretly engrave a variant of his name on the gun. Joke. Then Luo Guang stayed in San Francisco for another 2 days, both to get familiar with the new gun and to wait for Jill's new gun. When Jill was in STARS, she had more opportunities to do special work such as espionage operations than to fight on the front line. So her previous samurai blade was designed with a small slide catch to prevent it from being hooked by clothes, allowing her to easily place or withdraw the pistol from her waist. Since Luo Guang didn't use the M-type pistol for his new gun, the gun was given to Jill to be used to modify the new gun. Joe named this new gun Samurai Blade V-type. While retaining the original design, he added a lot of Joe Kendo's new experience and improvements, making the performance of this gun much better than before. This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading. This V does not mean Vertec, but victory. After saying goodbye to Joe, Luo Guang took 2 new guns and came to Turkey. His destination was Harlan. The rescue operation of survivors in Harlan has come to an end for the time being. Now, like Portland, the main thing is to disinfect the city, clean up all the biochemical monsters. After these battles, FBC has gained a lot of experience. Recently, they finally got proud of themselves and successfully drove away the night demon in the Harlan Hotel. The reason why it is called driving away here is that the night demon escaped directly from the hole in the basement into the sewer after discovering that something was wrong. The sewers in Harlan City are complicated. FBC entered the sewers to pursue the victory, but was lured deep into the sewers by the night demons. They ambushed and attacked, and were beaten back. FBC was not discouraged. Anyway, they had completed the assigned task, and casualties were just a number to the people above. After blowing up the hole in the basement to ensure that the night demons could not attack the hotel from there, FBC set up a transit base according to the original plan to facilitate the subsequent cleanup operation. However, this transit base also brought them a lot of trouble. At night, the night demons would lead various zombies to find trouble with FBC. Perhaps because of the night demons leading them, there are many more types of zombies in Harlan in the new city than in the other 2 districts. The first new type of zombie that appeared was the Smasher. After the mutation, it was about 2.5 meters tall. It seemed that they were all riot police in Harlan City when they were alive, so these Smashers basically wore bulletproof vests. Their power is enough to overturn a car or smash a concrete wall. The hole in the hotel basement is their masterpiece. At the same time, the muscles of the Crushers have special changes. Although they still cannot block bullets with bulletproof vests, they can stop all bullets in their bodies to avoid penetrating and causing damage to friendly forces behind them. This is their real role. When the night demons retreated with their families, they were responsible for the rear guard. The second type is the self-detonator, who can self-detonate forward like a broadsword mine, causing great damage to the enemy in front of him. In the sewer ambush, they pretended to be dead bodies, causing huge casualties to the FBC. Along with the self-detonator, there is also a mutant named Poison Man, who is covered with ugly bumps like toads and can spray acid projectiles from his mouth. Although the flying speed of this acid projectile is far less than that of a bullet, it will cause a splash similar to an explosion when it hits an obstacle, so it is not as easy to avoid in the sewer as imagined. These poisonous people seem to be an important and valuable long-range attack method for the night demons, so they were carried away from the ambush point by the plague demons after spitting out a round of acid bullets. The FBC was mainly responsible for cleaning up the zombies in the new city, while the BSAA was responsible for the civilian area. As for the old city, no one was sent to clean it up now. There were still many void cultists there who were unwilling to leave, saying that they wanted to wait for their Holy Mother to come back. The cleaning operation on the BSAA side was also very smooth, and there were no accidents. There was no casualties at all, and the Harlan virus inhibitor developed by the FBC was not needed at all. The reason was very simple. The BSAA side directly flew helicopters during the day, using noise to attract zombies to the bottom of the helicopter, and then the soldiers on the plane directly shot and killed the enemies below. Although the consumption of ammunition was not small, it happened that the Bear Country was clearing its inventory, so there was no problem. Moreover, after the zombies were attracted to an open area by helicopter, they could also directly throw a few incendiary bombs to clean up the corpses and avoid the plague. It was already night when Luo Guang arrived at the BSAA camp outside Harlan. Jill met Luo Guang outside the barracks, and the two hugged each other under the gaze of the BSAA soldiers. These soldiers were not called by Jill to welcome Luo Guang. They heard that their boss boyfriend was coming, so they came to find out of curiosity. Jill took Luo Guang to her office and said, "Why did you come suddenly? Are you done?" She had guessed that Luo Guang went to Harlan alone to collect intelligence. Then, in order not to worry herself, she made up a piece of information that she had left Harlan and asked Samus to convey it to her. These things that were done without telling her made Jill feel unhappy, and what was even more unhappy was that Luo Guang actually left Harlan without looking for her after completing these things. People in the BSAA camp knew that Jill was not in a good mood recently. So she directly pulled Luo Guang into her room and tortured him. Luo Guang could also take this opportunity to update the virus in Jill's body. "This is a gift for you." Luo Guang took Jill's samurai blade V-type pistol out of his backpack. Luo Guang had informed Patton in advance and asked him not to tell Jill, so that he could give her a surprise. As a man with a wife and 2 children, Barton naturally knows how to please girls, so after he knew Luo Guang was at Joe's place, he didn't tell Jill that he asked Joe to make a new gun. Jill took the gift box, unwrapped it and saw the logo of Kendo Gun Store inside. Touching the logo gently, memories began to surge in his mind. "Are you thinking about Raccoon City?" Luo Guang knew what Jill was thinking when he saw her look. This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading. Jill turned around on the bed, turned into Luo Guang's arms, and said, "You went to San Francisco." She knew that Robert had a brother in San Francisco who also opened a gun store. "Yes, by the way, I also customized a new pistol for myself. In fact, it was the other way around, but Jill would be happier if she said it this way. Don't look at Luo Guang's appearance as if he knows how to please girls. In fact, this is just a practice he learned from his social life. Robert, he had a chance to survive, but he chose to be with his wife and daughter, and did not choose to leave with me. You seemed to be chased by the goddess of vengeance at that time, right? Is it really okay to follow you?" Luo Guang complained in his heart and said, "His wife and daughter are infected." "That's right." Jill curled up in Luo Guang's arms. Luo Guang hugged Jill tightly and said, "It's all in the past. We who survived should look forward." "I know, but sometimes I can't help but wonder if our stars could do better. Could we have saved more people? The roots of Raccoon City have long been rotten, and the citizens of Raccoon City who were deceived by local TV will not listen to you and flee Raccoon City in advance. It is only a matter of time before the biochemical crisis spreads to the entire city." Luo Guang continued, "Just like this Harlan City, even if the FBC has cleaned up the zombies that appeared before, in the end, with the help of those people with ulterior motives, the entire city will still be destroyed. So our real enemy is not those biological weapons or other biological monsters, but people. Does this have anything to do with your investigation of Harlan City alone? You can rely on me, or your GIMZ troops." Jill turned over, buried his head in Luo Guang's chest, and said faintly. Luo Guang did not deny that he had entered Harlan City. He was about to tell Jill about the beekeeper organization, but he swallowed the words as soon as they reached his throat. It seemed that there was nothing to talk about between them except the biochemical crisis. He felt a little uncomfortable, but Jill did not see the changes on Luo Guang's face because she was busy with her previous actions. She thought Luo Guang had admitted that he had entered Harlan City, and then said, "Aren't you worried? Infected with viruses and so on, will you leave me alone when the time comes?" Luo Guang came back to his senses and said, "I am no longer the me in Raccoon City now." "I know, but I will still worry, idiot," Jill said dissatisfiedly. "I know, so I dare not tell you this. Why don't you join our BSAA organization, Luo Guang? The two of us will deal with the biochemical crisis together, so we don't have to separate." Jill also thought about a lot of things, but she was not good at expressing her concern. When she was in the European branch of BSAA, she sometimes chatted with other female colleagues and found that the daily life and topics between them and their boyfriends were completely different from hers. After she expressed her doubts, other female colleagues felt that their relationship was different from other normal couples and was not normal. How could a couple in love be separated for more than half a year without any complaints? This was also because of the skincare products and the fact that the other party was their superior. To put it bluntly, they felt that Jill and Luo Guang were more like sex partners than lovers. Jill learned a lot about love from her female colleagues, but before she could put it into practice, she had to go on a mission and Luo Guang was leaving. So this time, she wanted Luo Guang to stay with her forever. Evolution begins with Resident Evil. Author, Wei Tongmiao. Chapter 352. Luo Guang was a little surprised by Jill's proposal. According to what was agreed before, Jill was in BSAA, while Luo Guang was helping in GIMZ. Official organizations have their advantages, but unofficial organizations also have their own advantages. Cooperation between them to deal with biochemical crises is the best choice. Jill saw that Luo Guang was a little surprised, and rarely acted like a spoiled child. He showed the white rabbit in front of him and said, "Just join BSAA, I don't want to be separated from you." Luo Guang felt that Jill seemed to have changed without him knowing. Hearing Jill's coquetry, he burst out laughing, causing Jill to blush and punch Luo Guang in the chest. "What are you laughing at?" Jill felt that he had rarely mustered up the courage to act like a spoiled child according to his colleagues' teachings, and Luo Guang actually laughed. This was too shameful. "Nothing, just a rare and funny thing." Luo Guang couldn't help laughing. After all, he was not a professional. "It's rare for me to do this, shouldn't you be touched?" "But Jill, you are not suitable for this kind of coquettish voice." If Jill hadn't said it in a half voice, he wouldn't have laughed. But he was still very happy to hear Jill say that. It seems that he is not the only one. Jill is also troubled by the relationship between the two, hoping to take it a step further, rather than being satisfied with the status quo. "Of course I know, but they say that men are just like this," Jill said with a red face. "That's right." Luo Guang finished speaking and answered Jill's previous question, saying, "As for my joining BSAA, I'll join as a consultant after I arrange things first. Now GIMZ has SAMUs, and the army is on the right track, otherwise Luo Guang would not be a hands-off boss. Being a BSAA consultant is relatively free, at least you don't have to ask Jill for leave all day. Frequent leave is not a big problem, but it has a bad impact." Jill smiled and kissed Luo Guang on the cheek, saying, "This is your reward for being obedient. By the way, I have something to discuss with you." Luo Guang's serious expression made Jill put on a work-like look. She thought her boyfriend was going to talk about the biochemical crisis. "I plan to travel with you after Harlan City. Is it necessary to say this so seriously?" Luo Guang nodded and said, "Because it's useless if you refuse, you must go." "Do you think I won't go?" Jill said. "Who made you a workaholic?" Luo Guang knew that the other party would agree when he heard it. His face softened and he smiled. Jill chuckled and said, "I was before, but I have also thought a lot recently, about the things between you and me." "Me too." The two smiled at each other and started the second round of battle. In the operations office of the BSAA camp, a new day and a new mission. Luo Guang was also among them. In order to get Jill out of the Harlan City incident as soon as possible, he naturally had to go all out this time. "This is our GIMZ intelligence officer. He was the one who provided us with intelligence in Harlan City. By the way, he is also a survivor of Raccoon City. Anyway, he will join BSAA in the future, so it is a good choice to deter those people in advance." So Luo Guang manipulated it a little last night and gave himself the identity of G.I.M.Z's intelligence officer in Harlan City. Wu Song can continue to be the hands-off boss of GIMZ with this identity. The captains of BSAA and the two captains of GIMZ were very surprised to hear what Samus said. Although they knew that Samus had obtained a lot of information about the inside of Harlan City from other channels, they really didn't expect that the source of the information came from just an intelligence officer. Samus knew Luo Guang. Since he mentioned that he had contact with GIMZ before, she expected that he might have joined GIMZ a long time ago, so she was not surprised when she received the call from her boss. A small captain of the BSAA raised his hand and asked, "I have a question, Luo Guang, did you enter Harlan before the blockade?" "Of course not. The blockade measures of Harlan are ultimately only considered to stop zombies, and how can people be trapped by a wall? According to the information from the FBC, the intelligence of the night demon seems to be almost the same as that of humans. In your opinion, is it possible for the night demon to get over the blockade? If he hadn't thought that Luo Guang might have sneaked into Harlan, he wouldn't have thought of this question." This is not a small question, and Jill and Samus also want to hear Luo Guang's opinion. Luo Guang did not answer the other party's question immediately, and asked, "How is the sewer system in Harlan blocked? Have you found the existence of flesh lichens on the edge?" Samus replied, "The Turkish military said that the blockade has been completed, and there are no signs of zombies passing through, and no reports of flesh lichens." She said so, but in Luo Guang's mind, some of the light spots representing the location of the night demon are already in the vicinity of the edge of the sewer system in Harlan. "Let's grab our equipment and take 2 teams to check it out. Oh, and find a few people from the investigation team." "You haven't answered my question yet," the BSAA team leader thought Luo Guang wanted to evade the question. Luo Guang smiled and replied, "If you have seen the Tyrant of Umbrella, you won't ask such a question. Concrete walls can't stop some mutant biochemical monsters at all." This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading. The people who have seen the Tyrant nodded. The blockade of Harlan City relies on tall concrete walls. The news about the smasher has not been made public yet. FBC intends to turn the things found during the ambush into new information found by his men when they attacked the sewers, so the people present did not know the village chief of this mutant zombie. Samus pointed to a unit of the Wolf Team and BSAA and said, "You accompany Luo Guang to check and see if there are any areas that need improvement and solve them as soon as possible." "Yes." Luo Guang led the team and entered the sewer area. Wolf Team Victor and Echo Team Caroline, the 2 strong guys, looked at Luo Guang, who was leading the way in front with a little curiosity, wondering if they could have a fighting training with each other after this mission. "Stop, who are you?" 2 Turkish military personnel were on guard here. They took turns to guard, but it was clear that the 2 men did not take the job seriously. The 2 were playing poker, and when they saw Luo Guang and the others, they dropped the cards and pretended to work seriously. The Turkish United Nations representative poked his head out and cursed, "I am the Turkish United Nations representative, is this how you treat your job?" The 2 soldiers were also smart and immediately slid down to apologize, "Sorry, we won't dare to do it next time." They did not quibble that this mission was boring and that zombies would not break through the blockade. Because large machinery cannot be used in the sewers, they do not use huge concrete walls like the ground. They can only use relatively small concrete blocks to stack into walls, and then use barbed wire to block the gaps. For this reason, when Harran was blocked, the sewer blockade took a lot longer. Fortunately, the night demon had not yet developed at that time, so it did not slip out of Harran from the sewers. "Excuse me, is there any problem?" one of the soldiers looked at Luo Guang, who was checking, and asked. Luo Guang made a gesture to keep quiet, and then, without feeling dirty, he put his ear to the ground, as if listening to the movement in the distance. After a while, Luo Guang said, "There are zombies at the corner at the end ahead." Some people imitated Luo Guang's movements, but only heard some sounds similar to stepping on wet soil. After he asked this question, Luo Guang said, "That's the sound of stepping on flesh lichens. Even if there are zombies at the other end of the blockade, they can't move the concrete here, don't worry," one of the guards said. The BSAA team leader who raised the question before nodded. Luo Guang replied, "Your blockade looks beautiful, but it's actually vulnerable. Not to mention those powerful zombies, 2 ordinary zombies can collapse this blockade wall as long as they find a point of force. After that, he asked the BSAA team leader to follow him to push a piece of concrete in the middle, and at the same time told others to step back and be careful not to be affected by the collapsed blockade wall. Seeing Luo Guang's confident look, the 2 soldiers in charge of the guard could not help but have some doubts about the blockade wall. One of the guards looked at the representative of the Turkish investigation team and whispered, "What if he really destroyed the blockade wall? He has mentioned this to me. It is better to be destroyed by him than by zombies," the Turkish representative answered seriously. "But what if zombies come when it is destroyed? Guess why there is a BSAA team in the team this time." While they were talking, the blockade wall was really collapsed under the surprised expression of the BSAA team leader. This was not Luo Guang's brute force, although he had this intention at the beginning. When the dust settled, everyone looked at the broken concrete and found that there seemed to be some strange substances on it. The wolf mother stepped forward and touched the stuff on it with her gloved hand, saying, "It's flesh lichen." Obviously. Luo Guang pointed to the floor behind the blockade wall. It was not clear because there was no light there before, but now everyone's lights were shining over there and found that the ground was full of flesh lichen. These flesh lichens were all out of the guard's field of vision, and through the wire mesh, it was impossible to see whether there was any flesh lichen spreading. Luo Guang said, "The concrete blocks were simply stacked together, and those lichens easily penetrated into the gaps in the concrete blocks, so I pushed it so easily that it collapsed." At first, he planned to use brute force, saying that this kind of concrete wall had fatal problems. Unexpectedly, those night demons had already found another way, so he improvised and changed his statement. When others saw this, they naturally looked solemn and didn't think too much about how powerful Luo Guang was. The Turkish representative said, "Contact the higher UPS immediately and tell them the situation here, so that they can prepare a response plan immediately." Luo Guang pulled out his R-9 pistol and said, "Prepare for battle, the enemy is starting to move." He wanted to continue to get familiar with the feel of the R-9 pistol, so he didn't use the assault rifle he brought with him. With the previous incident as a prelude, everyone present was convinced by Luo Guang. Including the BSAA team leader, no one questioned and immediately raised their guns and prepared for battle. When the enemy appeared in sight, Luo Guang did not shoot immediately, but waited until a certain number of zombies left the corner before he fired the first shot, and his teammates beside him immediately responded and shot. This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading. While Luo Guang shot to kill the enemy, he observed the difference between BSAA and GIMZ soldiers. Although these Harlan zombies are similar to humans and their heads are not their only weakness, GIMZ still keeps the habit of using single-shot bursts to name the enemies one by one. Although BSAA does not have fully automatic sweeps, it still uses 3 bursts to shoot at the heart position of the zombie's chest to ensure that the enemy can be killed. This is the method that Jill taught his men based on the characteristics of Harlan zombies. It is true that this shooting method is a death wish against zombies like the T-virus, but headshots are not as easy as imagined. In addition, most of the Harlan zombies are parkour experts, so in order to ensure the kill, Jill chose to teach his men this more reliable method. The roar of the Night Devil was heard, and the zombies that were still alive immediately retreated. Luo Guang did not chase him, but waited for a while to confirm that the Night Devil in his mind took his men and retreated far away. Seeing that the matter had come to an end for the time being, the Turkish representative hurriedly found Luo Guang to express his gratitude. If the Harlan zombies escaped from Harlan City, the first to suffer would only be his motherland. Luo Guang interrupted the other party's words of thanks and said, "The wolf team is guarding here. I will take people to take a look. If there is any situation, you will be responsible for covering us." He trusted his GIMZ troops more, so he left them to be responsible for the rear. The representative of the lighthouse country saw all this and kept it in mind. Although they had only met for a short time, he felt that Luo Guang was very good. If he could be recruited into the FBC, he would be very useful and should be able to make the FBC perform better. So after hearing Luo Guang's instructions, he asked, "Is there any new situation? When I was shooting just now, I seemed to see a zombie holding a gun, so I shot it directly. Now go to confirm it." As soon as this was said, everyone understood what Luo Guang meant. If those zombies really learned to use guns, then the priority of handling the Harlan City incident would have to be several levels higher. Here Luo Guang remembered the location of the enemy he had dealt with, which was near the corner. The BSAA team leader looked at the location where the enemy fell and couldn't help but admire Luo Guang's shooting ability. Luo Guang's bullet passed through the obstacles of many enemies and directly hit the head of the enemy holding a gun at the corner, which means that Luo Guang successfully killed the enemy holding a gun at the moment when he was not blocked. This made him understand why the other party could win Jill's heart. The BSAA soldiers immediately dispersed to make sure the surroundings were safe, while the members of the investigation team walked to the zombie holding the gun and checked it from a safe distance. "Is this a plague demon?" one of them asked. Luo Guang replied, "Yes. I remember the report from the FBC Research Institute mentioned that the plague demon was just a zombie that had not completely mutated." Another person said, "Yes, if you think about it this way, the situation is not bad. If those night demons have mastered the ability to shoot, it would be really unimaginable." Luo Guang shook his head when he heard their conversation, and attracted the attention of everyone in the investigation team before he spoke. Evolution begins with Resident Evil. Author, Wei Tongmiao. Chapter 353. Luo Guang said to everyone, "But according to the situation of FBC, although the plague demons are not completely mutated, they have completely lost their intelligence and other aspects except for their physical functions." "What do you mean?" someone asked. "So those plague demons did not awaken by themselves and then picked up the submachine gun. The following is just my inference." Seeing that everyone seemed willing to hear more, Luo Guang continued, "You should have seen the images of the night demons, right? The claws on their hands are too long, which will affect their use of firearms. I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. So the plague demons with no mutations in their bodies are used," said the people in the investigation team. "In order to make all countries pay more attention to the affairs of Harlan City, increase military investment here, solve the problems here faster, and free Jill from this work," Luo Guang decided to add fuel to the fire. "That's right, and this is just the beginning. According to my investigation, there are a lot of unknown weapons in Harlan City. If the night demon uses them, it will cause us a lot of casualties. But after the battle at Harlan Hotel in the new city, we did not receive any reports that the zombies had guns. Could this be just an accident?" someone raised an objection. Luo Guang directly checked the submachine gun and found that the magazine was empty. This reminded him that after Kellen and Wang Qianglin were controlled by him, the two said that they entered Harlan City through the sewer. At that time, they had used up all the bullets, so they threw away their weapons. Another guy also saw that there were no bullets in the submachine gun magazine, so he was more inclined to say that this was just an accident. Are there not enough accidents with biochemical viruses? Harlan zombies now even know tactics, and didn't the FBC also investigate and find that those night demons can make clothes? In order to convince them, Luo Guang naturally tried his best and continued, "You can accept this setting, why can't you accept that those night demons will use guns sooner or later? You should brake in advance when you see a wall in front of you, why do you have to hit it before you know to turn back?" His words made everyone silent. There are no arrogant fools here. The reason they raised objections is just because if what Luo Guang said is true, the subsequent investment in funds, personnel, etc. will increase greatly, and it is not easy to get money in any country. But if Luo Guang's speculation is correct, in order to make up for the previous mistakes, it will only cost more financial resources, so they will fall into silence and entanglement. Let's go back and discuss it first. The most important thing now is to strengthen the blockade of Harlan City. Such an important matter is not something they can decide, so the members of the investigation team plan to go back and make plans. Luo Guang nodded. Haste makes waste. Anyway, it doesn't matter a few days. But what he didn't know was that the night demons who were scared away by him went all the way to the sewers in the new city area, met the mutant Night Demon King who retreated from the Harlan Hotel, and reported the gun to the Night Demon King. Then the Night Demon King used his mental power after evolution to gather all the night demons in the sewers and went to the civilian area to find trouble with the Les Gang and the Savior organization. They didn't know where the armories of the two gangs were, but they knew that those people had the weapons they wanted. Luo Guang and other Turkish military sent people to use flamethrowers to clean up the flesh lichens. After re-establishing the blockade, they took everyone back to the BSAA camp. For the time being, he only told Samus about the situation, because Jill led the team out to clean up the zombies and was not in the camp. Although Suleiman, the head of the Turkish military, was busy reinforcing the blockade and still did not attend the meeting, he sent his adjutant to listen this time to ensure that he could get the news of the meeting as soon as possible. As for the head of the FBC, he was also invited by Samus this time. However, the person in charge this time is not the previous one, but a former Red Claws member named Diego Elsman. The successful recapture of the Harlan Hotel is his masterpiece. Although the previous person in charge did not do a good job when he was in office, he was a close confidant of Morgan after all, so he was transferred to Italy to be responsible for the biochemical crisis there. After listening to Samus's explanation of the situation, Diego did not object to this possibility and shared the new intelligence he knew. We found several new mutant zombies when we were cleaning up the zombies in the sewer. One of them is temporarily called the Smasher, a mutant zombie that can smash concrete walls. The walls surrounding Harlan City are not full of patrol soldiers. If a large number of smashers attack a concrete wall at the same time, it is probably unstoppable. But the cost of blocking the entire city is too high. Do you have a more convenient plan? The Turkish representative raised his hand to speak. Although their country does not need to send troops to face the zombies directly, other support requires them to contribute money and effort, so the money for the blockade basically has to be paid by them, and other countries can only give some money in the form of donations at most. Everyone was silent for a moment. The reason why the high wall was built with concrete was because it saved time and effort. It can be said that the original plan was very cost-effective. The Turkish representative was a little anxious and suddenly turned his eyes to Luo Guang. Since he was the first person to see that there was a problem with the blockade, he should have thought of a solution long ago. Luo Guang noticed the other party's gaze. In fact, the simplest method should be to clean Harlan City directly with thermobaric bombs. From a certain perspective, this approach may be cheaper than rebuilding the city of Halland. This chapter is not finished yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. But Luo Guang would not propose this plan, and instead said, if only those smashers can destroy the wall, a sentry tower can be set up every 800 meters, with a 3-person sniper team deployed on it to deal with those smashers. After a pause, he continued, but if there is a crusher breaking through the wall, it is probably the night demon who is commanding it. Speaking of which, do those night demons have the ability to directly cross the wall? Diego replied, it can't be crossed, but it's just another step on the wall. But the idea of a 3-person sniper team is good, and it is indeed not expensive in terms of cost. But such a small number of people can't stop the army led by Night Demon. After telling the story about the poisonous man, he continued, so not only the sentry tower, but also minefields and a second line of defense must be deployed before and after the blockade wall, to ensure safety. However, I think the sewer blockade needs to be dealt with first. The environment there is very suitable for the survival of night demons, and without the command of night demons, the zombies on the ground will be nothing more than a mob. Diego also agreed with Sam's judgment that the situation in Harlan City had become more urgent. Although he said a lot, without Luo Guang's initial suggestion, he would not have thought of these additional words. After listening to what Diego said, everyone nodded. As long as the night demons have no living space, their weakness in fear of ultraviolet rays from the sun will be amplified. When it comes to destroying the ecology of certain organisms, humans are also good at it. In this case, it is best for us to directly carry out the battle to annihilate the night demons in the sewers and compress the enemy's living space. The adjutant of the Turkish military said the words. The topic of the meeting quickly turned to dealing with the Night Stalker. Luo Guang did not participate in it, but just listened to their discussion. How do you think the battle in the sewers should be fought? Sam said to Luo Guang without joining in. I led the team directly to use flamethrowers and shotguns, and then used a trolley heavy machine gun to crush them all the way. Then others followed to fix the leaks, and at the same time established a monitoring system to confirm the whereabouts of the zombies, forcing all the enemies into the old. After the city sewer system was destroyed, the sewers collapsed. In other words, the zombie clearing operation must be carried out simultaneously on the ground to liberate civilian areas and new urban areas, Samus asked knowingly. The civilian areas are fine, but the zombies in the new city cannot be dealt with in a short while. Crisp of the Echo team said, the civilian area is okay. During the recent cleaning operation, the number of zombies attracted by helicopters has decreased a lot, and most of the remaining zombies are trapped in the houses. It's not that there are night demons restraining other zombies not to be fooled, it's just that the zombies on the ground have basically been eliminated. FBC, is the new city area more troublesome? Luo Guang asked. Sams nodded and replied, they have been at odds with the Naharan Hotel before, and they have only recently freed up their manpower. The speed of clearing zombies is much slower than us. The F.B.C's strategy to rescue Suleiman's brother was problematic at the beginning. In the end, in order to gain some air and save the F.B.C's face, it had to start a battle around the Harlan Hotel, which ultimately slowed down the progress of clearing out the zombies. The Wolf Mother on the other side replied, but they have more manpower and helicopters over there. If we really want to clean up, it won't take long. And I think the person in charge now is much more capable than before. Diego is from the Red Claws, so he naturally knows better how to solve biohazards. Unfortunately, he sometimes has to consider other factors when resisting biohazards. This is why after Samus left the Red Claws, choose to join the GIMZ force. Samus finished and spoke to the others in the meeting, laying out what she had just discussed. Diego respected Samus and did not have much objection to her statement. He just said, if we are allowed to use armored vehicles and their cannons, we can clean up the new city 24 hours a day zombies. He wanted to gain greater authority for the FBC troops and use armored vehicles to better protect his men. You can just have a party at the Harlan Hotel and attract the surrounding zombies to the fortress, Luo Guang said. Another method. Luo Guang, you haven't been to the hotel, so you don't know that the Harlan Hotel is under siege every night. Regarding the captain of the Special Operations Team of the Red Claws, Diego knew that the other party had real materials, so he just saw truth from facts and continued, so our hotel has been exterminating those zombies 24 hours a day. Luo Guang nodded, then asked, speaking of which, has your FBC done any research on the Night Demon's lair in the Harlan Hotel? Others are also very curious about this. The other party suddenly mentioned so many new mutant zombies before, so it is very likely that they were researched from the Night Demon's lair. Now I just say some things that cannot be concealed. This is what many people think in their hearts. Diego nodded. With so many national investigators here, he couldn't hide it for long, and said, we did find a lot of new things. The new race of night demons is developing very rapidly. We found something like a mural in the night demon's nest, which at least shows that the art of painting, or culture, has been born from night demons. Although these are not urgent and will threaten the combatants, they are not something that can be ignored. The representatives of the Lighthouse Nation, in particular, immediately thought of what their country had done in Eastern Europe and said, "Do they have text?" This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading. No, in addition to these, we have also discovered the method of transforming humans and ordinary zombies into night demons based on the situation in the nest. As long as an excessive amount of Harlan virus is injected in a short period of time, there is a high probability that they will be directly transformed into night demons. That is to say, as long as there is a sufficient source of humans, it is very easy for the night demon race to grow and develop. Samus knew the reproduction method of night demons before, but he was not clear about the specific principle. The representatives of various countries also understood what the two meant, that is, if the night demons leave Harlan City, human survival will face many challenges, and it will be difficult to control the scale of the biochemical crisis. Luo Guang thought of the fact that there was still a perceptive night demon in his Caucasus base, but Jasmine seemed to have no desire to reproduce. Someone said thankfully, fortunately, these night demons have a shortcoming of being afraid of ultraviolet rays. That's only temporary. According to the current evolution speed of the night demons, it is very likely that a variant that is not afraid of ultraviolet rays will appear later, Luo Guang said. Samus and Diego nodded, agreeing with Luo Guang's statement. Anyway, no matter what, the problem of Harlan City must be solved as soon as possible. I hope that the United Nations can directly intervene and send peacekeeping forces to strengthen the blockade, and at the same time cooperate with our action to eliminate the night demons, Samus said to representatives of other countries. Luo Guang said, the eradication of the night demon can be handed over to our BSAA if others want to join, we only accept professionals who obey orders. What do you mean? I am familiar with the night demon, so I will lead the team to hunt the night demon. After the Bear Biscuits incident, everyone present knew that GIMZ and BSAA had a relationship, so it seemed okay for Luo Guang to lead the team. Are you familiar with the night demon? The representative of the Turkish military asked curiously. More familiar than you, Luo Guang did not tell them about his entry into Harlan City, and Samus and the others did not publicize it. Before the meeting, Samus only mentioned that Luo Guang was their intelligence officer. No problem for me, I will select a few former Red Claws to hand over to you. Diego did not question and directly expressed his support for Luo Guang's actions. The Turkish adjutant sitting next to him was a little surprised and asked in a low voice, who is he? A survivor of Raccoon City, former captain of the Red Claws Special Operations Team, led the team to discover the truth of the biochemical crisis on Banoi Island without injury. These are just public intelligence, Diego answered in a low voice. Luo Guang was often not in the Red Claws base, so Diego thought he was on a secret mission, and never thought that Luo Guang was actually on vacation. Needless to say, the first two titles were enough to convince the adjutant. Luo Guang, do you have any special way to track the night demon? As expected, someone thought of this. A small-scale force itself is the best bait. It's not me who goes after the night demon, but let the night demon come to me. Luo Guang made up an excuse casually. When it comes to the mission, it is naturally him who goes to hunt the night demon. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Evolution begins with Resident Evil. Author, Wei Tongmiao. Chapter 354. After everyone discussed a rough plan, they contacted their superiors to prepare manpower and resources. Samus asked the Wolf team and the Echo team to get ready and set out to perform the mission the next day when the sun came out. After watching everyone in the conference room leave and only herself and Luo Guang were left, she said, "Are you really sure you can deal with the night demon?" When I was collecting intelligence in Harlan City, I visited the Night Demon's lair during the day. I will be the first to kill the Night Demon in a minute. Luo Guang was not bragging. Awesome Samus did not say that she did not believe it. The other party survived and brought information that the Night Demon would reproduce. These are all evidence. Then she said, speaking of which, you guys were really fierce last night. Samus's room was next to Jill, and it was obvious that the sound insulation of this place was not very good. Luo Guang would not take up this topic, and said, why don't you ask Tanya to come over and make love? Has the problem in Spain been solved? She and I are not a couple, we just have needs. Don't get me wrong, Samus continued, the problem in Spain has been solved, but then they went to Italy to solve the new biochemical crisis. Luo Guang knew about the situation in Spain, but he just asked about it on purpose. Initially, Italy did not plan to ask the GIMZ troops, but as the disaster spread, in order to protect the safety of the villages and towns around the city, the local government paid out of its own pocket to ask the GIMZ troops to come and clean up the smaller number of biochemical monsters. After confirming the right of the GIMZ troops to fight independently, Samus signed a contract with the NATO investigation team representative in Italy with the consent of his boss. Have you investigated the Greyhound organization? Samus guessed that Luo Guang left Harlan City to investigate the biochemical crisis in Italy. Luo Guang answered honestly, no, I went back to the lighthouse country for vacation. You really have the leisure to go on vacation. I was like this when I was in the Red Claws. Samus missed the old days a little and said, yes. Luo Guang told some basic information about the Greyhound organization, which Samus also learned from the Italian representative. So, I sent people to investigate the leader. Although there are not many people with the same name, most of them can be found. Luo Guang did this to narrow the target range. He did not intend to use the X organization or the Red Emperor to investigate, but to use the channels of the Round Table forces. It just so happened that the Italian Mafia was a local underground force and also a member of the Round Table forces. It was easy for them to confirm the situation of those people. I understand, you want to find those missing people first to confirm their identities, Samus replied. Just as the human side was beating the gongs and drums to prepare for the next action, the Night Demons were also making preparations. The first thing was to raid the base of the Rice Gang and seize the firearms and weapons in their hands. As for the Savior organization, they were hiding in the sewers, so they were wiped out by the Night Devil. The arrogant Rice Gang thought that they could survive to the end with their own men, and then take over a large area of land when the government rebuilt Harlan City, becoming the uncrowned king of Harlan City's underground. So they rejected the good intentions of the BSAA to rescue them, and now they are finally forced to swallow the bitter fruit they have planted. The Harlan zombies holding knives and sticks launched a full-scale attack on the Rice Gang's strongholds at the same time during the day. The Rice Gang could not have thought of this at all, and they could not organize any effective resistance in the face of zombies who were not afraid of death. When facing many zombies, the boss of the Rice Gang took his machete and resolutely rushed into the zombie group. Then the boss was captured by the Night Devil and sent to the cultivation tank to be transformed into a new Night Devil. Then there was enough time and enough ammunition and weapons for the Night Devil to finally figure out how to use guns. Although there is no channel to produce this kind of weapon, they have developed another weapon suitable for their use by using firearms. Using the Night Demon cultivation tank to produce a specific principle similar to the blowgun, it can shoot bone spurs through high-pressure air to attack distant creatures. This is a creature without intelligence and only has a single function. The Night Demon needs to squeeze a sack ball on the creature with his hand to stimulate it to shoot bone spurs from its mouth. In order to cooperate with this creature, many Night Demons choose to tear off the claws on their left hands, then aim with the gun barrel in their right hand, and launch a long-range attack with the sack ball in their left hand. This creature is not perfect. The number of bone spurs stored now is limited, and the time to generate is much slower than changing bullets, and it needs to be fed with meat. As for those human firearms, they are equipped to the plague demons to let them learn how to shoot and attack. The plague demons were not taught to aim because these guys' intelligence could not understand the deeper teaching. Anyway, the new biological weapons have been developed, which is the top priority in the Night Demon King's plan. Although all of them had put on UV-proof clothes made of human skin, so they would not be killed directly by the sun, the night was their best living environment. So the Night Demon King was not in a hurry to launch a real counterattack against the humans in the Harlan Hotel, and the previous nightly attacks were just tests. They are not human beings either, and they do not need to rest and recuperate, so the Night Demon King went to his hometown, the new stadium in Harlan City. This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. If it wants to rule the entire Harlan City, the Night Demon, there is a threshold it has to cross. The night came quickly, and the BSAA was ready. Luo Guan was giving emergency training to the next subordinates, teaching them how to abandon themselves and run away directly. You read it right, just teach them how to run away, the faster the better, don't stop him from playing. Of course, the name of this teaching is to teach them how to survive the hands of the Harlan zombies. At this time, the area around the Harlan Hotel was also brightly lit, and outside the light, there were many human figures swaying, just like usual. So the FBC soldiers didn't care, and didn't choose to waste bullets to eliminate the wandering zombies, choosing to wait until the enemy launched an attack before shooting. Captain Jones had died in the previous Harlan Hotel tragedy, and now the person in charge is another former Red Claw soldier named Hope Estheum. Captain Hope was standing on the rooftop, looking down with a worried look on his face. For some reason, he always felt uneasy tonight, as if something big was going to happen. The people he sent out did not find anything, and only replied that everything was fine. Hope also arranged personnel in the basement area of the hotel. As long as the enemy launched an attack from the basement, he would know immediately and block the enemy at the basement door. Report: there is movement from the enemy in the east, but no mutants such as the Crusher were found. They may have started to attack the observer on the lower floor. Found that the zombies in the distance began to gather. As usual, Hope immediately ordered to prepare for battle. Report: the enemy is gathering in the south. Report: the enemy is gathering in the north. Report: the west is also. Hope returned to the command room and confirmed the situation around the hotel through the remote observation cameras carried by those observers. All the previous attempts were just probing, but tonight is the enemy's general attack. He thought so in his heart, and finally understood the reason for his restlessness. This time, the scale of the enemy gathering was several times larger than before, so his first step was to let the logistics team deliver the ammunition piled up in the temporary warehouse to the front-line soldiers in advance to ensure that the number of bullets in their hands was several times that of the enemy. Report the number of mutant zombies in each direction. Hope wanted to confirm the enemy's main attack position. If those night demons wanted to break through the human defense line, they would first have to break through the protective wall they had piled up with various debris. But Hope did not hear the answer he wanted. There was no Crusher in the zombie group surrounding the hotel, nor were there other mutant zombies. After confirming several times, the observers did not see even a single mutant, but only heard the roar from time to time. It was the hidden night demons giving orders. If none of these four directions were the main attack, then the night demons that could not fly would only have the last option, which was to launch an attack from the underground area. Hope immediately ordered the troops of the third line of defense to go to the underground area to assist in the defense, and at the same time let the guards on the rooftop fill in the third line of defense. Fortunately, the establishment of a temporary research room in the hotel was finally abandoned, so he did not need to consider the researcher. After making the arrangements, he contacted Diego and reported the situation to him. "What support do you need?" Diego asked directly without ambiguity after listening to the explanation. "Helicopter support, help us stop the enemies outside the hotel, so that we can have more manpower to defend the underground area." The reason why they did not choose to blow up the underground area was that there was a lot of space in the underground area, and it was not so easy to blow it down. Moreover, they were in the hotel, and the Harlan Hotel became a dangerous building, which was not allowed by the Turkish government. "Where is the manpower support?" Diego asked. "There are not many people in our camp, right?" Hope asked. Diego replied, "Even one person is a rare fighting force. I will let them come by helicopter. If it is not enough, the person in charge of BSAA is our old superior. I will go to her for help." "But the FBC superiors?" Hope did not ask for personnel support at the beginning because of this. Diego interrupted, "Then wait until you survive." Yes, hearing the other party's words, Hope was also refreshed. The superior's instructions are useless now. Survival is the most important thing. The helicopter quickly filled up with fuel and landed at the hotel with the FBC troops. After unloading the combatants, it circled around the hotel, but the zombies did not launch an attack. Seeing this situation, Hope did not wait rigidly, but let the helicopters directly attack the zombie group below to reduce the number of enemies as soon as possible. With a few roars, the zombies that had gathered began to disperse, but still did not attack. It seemed to be a strategy to deal with the helicopter attack. Diego has been in contact with Hope. After learning about this situation, he also felt that something big was going to happen at the Harlan Hotel tonight. He said with a serious face, "BSAA has promised to send a support force, led by Luo Guang." Captain of the Special Operations Team, Hope remembered who the other party was when he heard it. Yes, he found a loophole in the blockade as soon as he came to Harlan City. Hope had seen Luo Guang's combat ability and said, if he is given enough ammunition, he can defend the entire passage alone, right? This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading. That was in the past. I got some information from the representative of the lighthouse country, and his shooting skills seemed to be even better. When Diego heard that Luo Guang was leading the team, he couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. He continued, but because the plan was changed temporarily, it takes some time to prepare weapons and equipment again, so they haven't set out yet. Originally, Luo Guang was planning to fight in the sewers. Now that he has changed the place, he naturally has to change the corresponding equipment. At least the flamethrower cannot be brought. Just when Hope was still thinking about what to say, he heard a cry of surprise. He turned his head to look at the screen over there, just in time to see a helicopter shaky and finally couldn't hold on and fell to the ground. What's going on? Hope looked at the falling helicopter in disbelief as it turned into a ball of fire. After retaking the Harlan Hotel, the FBC strengthened the communication system, so Diego could receive the surveillance images and sounds simultaneously. He immediately asked his men to retrieve the video to confirm the cause of the helicopter crash. Are those acid bullets from the Poison Man? Diego did not see the Poison Man in the picture, but saw several arcs flying from the ground to the sky, which directly hit the helicopter and exploded. The acid passed through the glass of the cab and directly caused damage to the driver, which made the helicopter look shaky at first. Then the enemy made a few more shots, and the helicopter began to lose control, and finally fell and caught fire. Hope also watched the replay and cursed, "Damn it! This is an enemy trap." They did not find any mutant zombies just to trick them, and while destroying the helicopter, they also cut off the hotel's support and retreat. There was no need for Hope to give orders. The other helicopter pilots heard the words of the crashed pilot before his death and immediately began to climb. But how could the enemy easily let go of these helicopters that slaughtered their men at will in the sky? The poisonous people ambushed in the enemies on all sides spit saliva at the sky. Fortunately, these helicopters have been tested in the battlefield for a long time. Although they were hit by acid several times, the pilots were not hit. Although the fault bell in the helicopter sounded, it could still fly. So Diego immediately ordered the helicopter to retreat. The FBC helicopters were damaged a lot in this mission. It was a blessing to be able to fly back. So if they wanted to use helicopters again, they could only borrow helicopters from the BSAA or the Turkish military. For those helicopters that often fly around in the sky of Harran City, the night demons have long been concerned and thought about how to solve them, and this is their first attempt to counterattack. As the helicopters evacuated, the roars of the night demons sounded from all sides at the same time. Their king issued an order for a general attack in their minds. Evolution begins with Resident Evil. Author, Wei Tongmiao. Chapter 355. There was one thing that Hope, the person in charge of the Harlan Hotel, did not predict wrong. That is, the real main attack direction of the Night Stalker was the underground area of the Harlan Hotel. Almost when the zombies outside launched a general attack, the walls of the underground area were smashed by the prepared smasher. The rubble pile that was originally blocked had been secretly moved away by the zombies before, and now it was directly knocked open by the smasher with his shoulder. Then the mutant zombie did not stop and rushed towards the FBC soldiers who were shooting. The soldiers hid directly outside the basement, and then the .50 caliber heavy machine gun outside the door began to roar, thoroughly sweeping the entire basement. The walls of the basement could not stop the attack of the heavy machine gun. The powerful impact directly broke the zombies that rushed out in half. The mutated body of the smasher could not block this caliber bullet, and was smashed to pieces by the focus. Da-da-da. Just when the heavy machine gun fired the empty ammunition chain and others were ready to cover the shooting, gunshots were heard in the basement. The heavy machine gunner facing the door was hit by several bullets in an instant. Although he was still alive, his life was already a candle in the wind. The auxiliary loader beside him did not hesitate, and directly pushed the machine gunner away, replaced him and continued to reload. An FBC soldier poked his head out from behind the bunker and fired a high-explosive grenade into the basement to suppress the enemy. These soldiers had received intelligence that the zombies might use firearms before, so they did not fall into chaos and continued to resist according to the previously planned plan. Suddenly, the wall of the basement was knocked open by several crushers. The night demon also relied on the previous bullet suppression to provide time for breaking the wall. After the width of the battlefield became wider, the zombies could more easily approach the FBC soldiers. Da-da-da. The heavy machine gun was loaded, and the muzzle spit out flames again, crushing all the newly appeared crushers and the night walkers hiding behind them before the enemy approached. This is just another bait arranged by Night Devil. Several walls in the underground area were broken by the smasher, and zombies immediately poured in. Although Hope had arranged some blocking personnel based on the map of the sewer to confirm the location where the enemy could break the wall, he didn't know whether the enemy would do so or where to break the wall, so he naturally didn't arrange a large number of people to patrol, but only played a warning role. Because when this happens, it means that the FBC will withdraw from the underground area. Hope soon received a report that the underground area had fallen. Only 52 of the 100-man team left the underground area and joined their teammates on the first floor to continue blocking the enemy. The main reason for the casualties of the soldiers was that the Harlan zombies ran too fast and were not afraid of bullets, so even if the FBC soldiers took turns to cover the retreat, they could not stop all the zombies, and finally they had to run faster than their teammates to survive. Hope had expected that there would be a lot of losses, but there was no way. The number of enemies is countless. As long as the enemy is determined and consumes a large number of zombies, they will naturally break through the defense line, so what he can do is to block and defend elastically to reduce the number of enemies as much as possible. Hope knew that the situation below was becoming urgent. If the enemy's center bloomed and rushed out from the underground area of the hotel, the soldiers blocking the zombies on the first floor would be sandwiched from front and back. So he decided to let all the soldiers on the first floor move to the third floor to defend the stairs of the hotel and deal with the enemies around. Diego, who was connected to the communication, also knew that the situation on Hope's side was deteriorating rapidly, and immediately contacted Samus. "Have your people arrived?" "On the way." "What can you do with so many people relying on our two teams?" Samus was not in a good mood and said, "Give up the Harlan Hotel." Diego said, "I know, but we can solve the enemy in large numbers while the enemy is attacking now." Later, the opponent's troops needed to cooperate, so he told his plan. "We plan to use the structure of the Harlan Hotel to eliminate the enemy as much as possible, and gradually retreat at the same time. Finally, when everyone has retreated, we will directly blow up the entire Harlan Hotel and bury all the enemies." The entire Harlan Hotel is the grave that Diego prepared for the Harlan zombies. He also knew that there was no point in defending this hotel, but the idiot above asked for it. What could he do? So Diego decided to blow up the hotel directly and blame the accident on the Night Demon. The bloody battle of the F.B.C.'s men was just to shirk responsibility, and to prevent the FBC soldiers who came to support from the latter from repeatedly fighting with the Harlan zombies in that ghost place. Isn't it good to learn from the successful experience of BSAA? "Is this your real purpose?" Samus asked in surprise. "I didn't make up my mind about this plan at first, but it was the evolution of the Night Devil that made me make this decision. If things go well, the Night Devil King that the Institute speculates may exist will be buried here. The FBC Institute speculates that the current Night Devil has a real leader based on the social evolution of the Night Devil. How do you confirm that the Night Devil King will fall into your trap?" "Because his son is in the Harlan Hotel." This is a secret that Diego, Hope, and some of their confidants have been keeping. After he successfully commanded the recapture of the Harlan Hotel, Hope found a baby Night Devil in the Night Devil's lair, and there was another Night Devil next to the Night Devil, and there was an umbilical cord connecting the two. This shows that the Night Demon has evolved again and begun to have the ability to reproduce naturally. Although there were no researchers present at the time, the Red Claws had training-related knowledge, so Hope immediately confirmed the situation and reported the matter to Diego. In the end, Diego chose to hide the truth that the baby Night Stalker was still alive, and then sent the information about the possible natural reproduction method of the Night Stalker along with the dead mother to the FBC Research Institute. The reason for leaving the baby Night Stalker is naturally to attract enemies to attack, so that FBC can rely on the hotel to eliminate a large number of zombies. If possible, this is still a hostage that Hope can use when evacuating. That's why Night Demon will never forget this place. After listening to Diego's explanation, Samus could only accept it and said, "Luo Guang and the others are almost at the Harlan Hotel. I have only one request, bring them back alive. It's natural." After talking to Samus, Diego conveyed the matter to Hope and asked him to strictly follow the plan. Now the FBC is holding back the enemy on the 5th floor of the hotel, and Hope has received reports of the arrival of BSAA personnel. "Hello, Luo Guang, long time no see." Hope did not greet Luo Guang in person. He could not leave his command position easily now. Luo Guang had some impression of Hope. It seemed that when he was in the Red Claws, he ravaged the entire team led by the other party in the competition. But he was not familiar with the other party, and he didn't know what to say to reminisce about old times, so he directly pretended that the task was urgent and said, "Time is pressing, let's talk about the current situation." Hope replied, "Now we have stopped blocking the zombies around the hotel. We have let the enemies in and are using the stairs on each floor to block them." He then repeated his and Diego's plan. Luo Guang recalled the battle before the Harlan Hotel and asked, "How is the situation outside? I remember that those night demons can climb up outside the wall, right?" "No trace of Night Demon has been found in the periphery." The other party shook his head. Luo Guang nodded and said to Crisp and Wolf Mother Lupert behind him, "You will lead the team and wait for me on the second line of defense. I will be responsible for commanding their defense line. Is that okay?" "No problem, I will let the people on the defensive line obey your command," Hope replied immediately. "Where's Captain?" Crisp asked. Hope was equally curious. Luo Guang replied confidently, "I will stop the zombies and ask the soldiers on the front line to withdraw and let them evacuate first." Several people in the Wolf team and the Echo team looked surprised. This was different from the original plan. Diego and Hope's plan was very good, but it had a flaw, that is, there would be a lot of casualties, so Luo Guang directly adjusted the original plan and decided to save more people. In the game, if the FBC does not become Morgan's tool for power struggle, it is actually an important antibiochemical force. Those antibiochemical soldiers cannot be given away so easily. There are many more biohazard incidents in this world than in the game world, so Luo Guang has no intention of weakening F.B.C's strength. Even if it was just to gain some goodwill so that he could later absorb the remnants of the FBC that might be disbanded, Luo Guang had to take action to save people this time. "Hope, you have connected with our communication. I need your people to prepare 2 loaded light machine guns at the place where I retreat." Luo Guang gave another instruction and got a positive answer from the other party. "Okay, let's go." After speaking, Luo Guang was the first to leave the command room. The people who were blocking the enemy on the first line of defense had the barrels of the assault rifles in their hands red, but the enemies were still coming up one after another. The Night Stalker has decided to deal with the humans in the Harlan Hotel at all costs. This time is the decisive battle, so he did not save his troops and save the number of ordinary zombies like before. Anyway, these zombies that are consuming bullets are the weakest biters. This kind of biters are sometimes even used to feed the transforming night demons, and they are the lowest status characters within the night demon group. The night demons have obtained the firearms used by humans. Although they cannot understand the specific principles, at least they know the biggest shortcoming of this weapon. That is, without bullets, it is not as useful as your own claws and fangs. So using the biters to consume bullets, and then letting the plague demons charge with firearms when the firepower weakens, is the tactic they are executing. The loudest gunshot stopped suddenly, and the night demon immediately roared, causing the blight demon to charge. The sound of gunfire continued, but this time the sound came from the zombies. The FBC soldiers, who had become a little numb from the constant shooting, instinctively hid, and the unlucky guy was not killed by the bullets. Taking advantage of this gap, the zombies swarmed forward and directly hit the barbed wire fence with their bodies. The zombies behind them stepped on them and crossed the defense line. They were about to pounce on the soldiers who had just raised their guns and were about to shoot. Suddenly, a series of short bursts of fire sounded from behind the defense line, and the zombies who rushed towards the FBC soldiers were directly shot through the head by bullets. A soldier looked back and saw a man holding a light machine gun in each hand, shooting and approaching him. "I am Luo Guang, I will hold the line here, you guys retreat quickly," Luo Guang shouted. He did not report the name of BSAA, naturally, it was also for GIMZ to recruit people later. The people on the defense line had heard that there was support to replace their positions before, but they did not expect that this so-called support was only one person. Although there were many doubts in the hearts of the people present, now was not the time to ask. In order to avoid accidental injuries to friendly forces, they crawled towards Luo Guang and stood up after they were behind him. Go, there were many enemies. Although Luo Guang used short bursts to kill the enemies continuously, there were too many enemies, so the intervals between the bursts were too short, just like continuous shooting. Yes, the soldiers looked at Luo Guang and started running to the upper floors. In order to be fair, these surviving soldiers will take the newly arrived BSAA helicopter to leave. Because there is only one helicopter landing platform on the rooftop, the helicopter from the Turkish military will arrive later. About a minute later, the sound of the light machine gun disappeared, and all the zombies charging in front of Luo Guang fell to the ground, including the plague demons holding guns and a night demon that followed the charge. The zombies were not all annihilated by Luo Guang. The moment the gunfire stopped, The enemies who had stopped charging and had launched another charge. Luo Guang did not intend to reload the weapon in his hand, and directly pulled out his new invisible straight knife to meet the enemy. Luo Guang did not pull out the R-9 pistol with his empty left hand, but grabbed the fist of the plague demon, and then used the enemy's body as a weapon to knock the surrounding zombies to the ground. Then Luo Guang threw away the plague demon in his hand, like a loach, using the gaps between the zombies to swim around, harvesting the heads of every zombie he passed by. The night demon, who originally thought that the other party was going to be drowned by the zombies, showed a panic expression that should not have appeared on his face. He retreated and roared loudly at the same time, saying that he wanted to pass the information back before he died. Only the Night Demon King had awakened his spiritual power, so the other night demons could only pass the information back to the Night Demon King's ears one by one through roaring. In Luo Guang's mind, among the pile of light spots in the underground area, there was a particularly bright light spot. That's probably the Night Demon King, he thought so in his heart, but he didn't have the idea of catching the king first. Because the Night Demon King was there, those night demons would gather together, making it easier for the anti-biochemical organization to catch them all in one fell swoop. Luo Guang could sense the existence of the other party, and the Night Demon King could also sense Luo Guang's existence. Before, the Night Demon King was still a little unsure, but after hearing the words passed to his ears by his subordinates, he finally confirmed that the other party was not a traitor of the Night Demon, but a human infected with the Harlan virus without mutation. What are you? The Night Devil didn't think Luo Guang could communicate with his mind like him, but he still asked. Luo Guang didn't respond to him, which made the Night Devil feel a little relieved, thinking that the opponent's fighting power should not be better than his. 5 minutes later, Hope informed Luo Guang that the first batch of FBC had reached the rooftop and evacuated, and the people on the second line of defense were also ready. The battle ended briefly. The corpse of Harlan's zombie blocked the entire staircase, and the enemy couldn't get through for a while, so Luo Guang used grenades to create a booby trap for cover and retreated to the upper floor. Evolution begins with Resident Evil. Author, Wei Tongmiao. Chapter 356. Because he ran at full speed, the zombies couldn't catch up at all. So Luo Guang came to the stairwell, picked up the light machine gun leaning against the wall, and waited for a while before the enemy appeared in his sight. Luo Guang, a night demon, broke through the glass of the hotel's outer wall, so the soldiers withdrew in advance, and only set up a weapon supply point before the second line of defense Hope's information came into Luo Guang's ears. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. The Night Demon King still acted according to its plan. Although Luo Guang, a Chen Yaojin, appeared halfway, it felt relieved and continued its original plan after sensing Luo Guang's sudden retreat. However, it gave its men a new order to infect Luo Guang, and it wanted to transform him into a night demon. Although the second line of defense was ready and there were wolves guarding it, the night demon broke the outer wall glass and entered the hotel, which would still cause a lot of trouble for the FBC soldiers on other floors. So Luo Guang gave the Echo Squad an order based on the location of the night demon in his mind. Received. Echo Squad, the night demon broke in from the outer wall of the 13th floor, go and intercept him. At the same time, he did not stop his hands, clamped the 2 light machine guns on both sides of his waist, and kept pulling the trigger. Although he did not aim with the 3-point line, his headshot rate remained 100%. With the help of mental power, Luo Guang now had 2 crosshairs in his eyes like playing a game, and Luo Guang basically ignored the impact of recoil when controlling the gun, so he could maintain such a high headshot rate. In order to buy time for the Echo Squad to deal with the enemy, he chose to delay time on the current floor to block the advance of the zombie army. After running out of bullets, Luo Guang pulled out the straight knife again and quickly dealt with the zombies climbing up the stairs. As expected, the enemy still could not cross the line and was quickly dealt with by him. Although the Night Demon King could not sense the situation of those ordinary Harlan zombies, he deduced that the attack was blocked again from the fact that Luo Guang and the Night Demon in charge of the front line command did not move. Naturally, he understood that Luo Guang's retreat was not due to lack of ability, but a strategic retreat, just like it did before. This made him start to think about what the purpose of the human side was. And how should he deal with it? Back to Luo Guang. He was harvesting the enemy, and suddenly the lattice door of the stairwell above was opened. Two night demons appeared from behind the door, jumped directly over the guardrail of the stairs, and flew towards Luo Guang. The light spots representing the two night demons in the Night Demon King's mind disappeared directly at the moment of contact with Luo Guang's light spots. This made him start to reflect on whether Luo Guang's combat power was as weak as he had expected. The reason why it was able to mutate from an ordinary night demon to a perceived night demon and become the king of most night demons in Harlan City today is precisely because of its habit of thinking. By the way, the only night demons in Harlan City that are not controlled by the Night Demon King are in the Harlan Temple in the Old City. For Luo Guang, these two night demons can't sneak attack him at all, and the feeling of chopping is not much different from that of ordinary Harlan zombies. As he withstood the greatest pressure, the pressure on the FBC side suddenly decreased. Although the night demons that broke in from the window of the outer wall brought some trouble to the FBC, it is not the beginning now. All the soldiers of the Harlan Hotel have combat experience against night demons. Facing night demons, the FBC teaches only one method: aim at the enemy and empty the bullets. As long as they are not dead, change the new magazine and continue to aim at the enemy and empty the bullets. In addition, the Echo Squad took the initiative to intercept the night demons that broke in, and this time the FBC only lost 2 soldiers. At first, the Echo Squad was skeptical about Luo Guang's intelligence that he knew the floor where the enemy came in, but with the encounter with the Night Demon, the suspicion disappeared directly. They and the Wolf team also understood why Luo Guang could become their captain in hunting the Night Demons. Luo Guang, you can go back to the second line of defense. Hope saw the right time and immediately asked Luo Guang to retreat. Echo team, we will gather at the second line of defense, and the Wolf team will take over the command at the third line of defense. Get ready. Luo Guang directly issued the latest order to the Echo team. Received. Crisp replied immediately and commanded the team to move to the second line of defense. 2 more grenades were thrown, and Luo Guang also began to move to the second line of defense. As the enemy captured layer after layer, the defenders on the rooftop also began to attack, specifically dealing with the night demons on the outer wall. The night demons had tried the attacks of the defenders before, and knew that as long as they didn't get too close, the probability of them being hit by bullets would be greatly reduced, but once they were hit, they could basically feel the gravity and fall to the ground and die. Luo Guang arrived at the second line of defense almost at the same time as the Echo team. Then we will retreat. Take care of yourselves. The FBC second line of defense team looked at Luo Guang and others gratefully, and left with only the light weapons in their hands. As for other spare ammunition, grenades, etc., they were left to Luo Guang and his team. 5 minutes, this is the time we need to hold on. I need someone to help me load bullets. After Luo Guang received Hope's new task, Lawrence, the virus treatment expert of the Echo team, immediately raised his hand. Compared with others, his combat ability is the weakest, and his advantage is more reflected in the prevention and treatment of biochemical viruses, so it is best for him to help Luo Guang reload the light machine gun with empty bullets. With the help of others, Luo Guang planned to use the 2 light machine guns and the heavy machine gun in turn to block the enemy. This chapter is not over. Please click on the next page to continue reading. The enemy soon caught up, but this time they did not attack rashly. The Night Demon King issued the latest order, asking them to act with caution. At the same time, he decided to send out his own Night Demon with a bone spur gun and the Plague Demon with a firearm, 2 long-range units to attack together. Not only to reduce Luo Guang's casualties to them, but more importantly, it received new information that the humans in the Harlan Hotel were evacuating. It also verified that the enemy's defense line was not breached, but that humans gave up on their own initiative, so it planned to find other ways to attack, such as smashing through the ceiling and bypassing the defense lines set up by humans and Luo Guang, a guy who could not be solved for the time being. This is where the defender of the building feels uncomfortable. In fact, in battles between humans, operations such as directly tearing down walls and blasting open ceilings are not uncommon. It is always safer than rushing through doors. Soon, Hope received the news that zombies suddenly appeared between the second and third lines of defense. The zombies have been hiding behind the bunker. It seems they have thought of other ways to avoid us. Luo Guang gave the order, you go back and surround the zombies, and then go directly back to the rooftop. After saying that, he notified the wolves and Hope, asking them to communicate the Echo Team's movements at any time to avoid accidental injuries. Understood. Echo Team did not hesitate and immediately left the second line of defense with their weapons. Previously, Night Demon probed to confirm the situation of the second line of defense, but was shot directly in the head by Luo Guang. After that, there was no movement at the end of the corridor. He thought the standoff would continue until the next batch of helicopters arrived. Unexpectedly, the enemy planned to use a move to drain the fire. Heavy footsteps came from the space under Luo Guang's feet. This made him immediately alert. He carried the heavy machine gun and moved away from there before the crusher smashed the floor under his feet. Then he directly fired the heavy machine gun at the ground to eliminate the crusher below. It's a pity that the two light machine guns fell to the floor below. Just a second or two later, a large group of plague demons appeared at the end of the corridor, holding Wangguo brand weapons and shooting wildly at Luo Guang's position. He had not attacked before but was waiting for their arrival. Luo Guang rolled over and hid in the next room. The plague demon didn't understand what it meant to save bullets, and those weapons were empty of bullets in an instant. As soon as the gunfire stopped, Luo Guang leaned out with a heavy machine gun and fired back. It was not only the plague demon who appeared in front of him, but also the night demon with a bone spur gun in his hand. The plague demon emptied the bullets to buy time and prevent the night demon from being accidentally injured. Both sides fired shots at almost the same time, and the night demon and the plague demon behind it were all directly torn apart by .50 BMG bullets. Luo Guang was also hit by several bone spurs, but they were all blocked by the hardened armor. It feels like the impact of this bone spur on the body is weaker than a 9mm pistol bullet. Luo Guang made a mental evaluation, and while the zombies behind him were being harvested by heavy machine guns at the same time, he contacted Hope and reported that the enemy had new weapons. Although the power of bone spurs is weaker than that of 9mm pistol bullets, protection against bites and claws is more important than bullet protection when facing zombies, so FBC soldiers do not wear body armor, which is basically a military jacket and a tactical vest that can cover the body. I know after Hope said this, he shared the information publicly. This time, the members of the investigation teams from various countries really couldn't sit still. These night demons have grown too fast, and it is not an option to continue like this. But when the Turkish representative contacted the president, he received an answer that prohibited the destruction of Harran city, which means that artillery missiles still cannot be used to plow the city of Harran. This is not because the Turkish president is reluctant to part with the ancient ruins in Harran city, but he plans to raise the price and take the opportunity to recover losses. I won't go into details about the political wrangling here. Anyway, the end result is that Turkey angered the Vuchain, and the gains were lost. The second batch of FBC soldiers successfully evacuated. Luo Guang took the initiative to clear out a wave of enemies and then evacuated to the third line of defense. As the number of people in FBC gradually decreases, the defense pressure will increase, so the defense line is also shrinking. The so-called third line of defense is on the lower floor of the rooftop, guarding the entrance to the rooftop. After the Echo team dealt with the enemies that appeared between the second and third lines of defense, they came to the third line of defense. They first conducted a simple intelligence exchange with the wolves, and then returned to the rooftop to confirm the defense situation above. The wolf mother also asked Crisp about Luo Guang, and because they didn't have any fighting on the second line of defense, Crisp only gave the other party an answer about Luo Guang's quick reaction and accurate shooting. Luo Guang delayed for 7 minutes before Hope told Luo Guang that he could start to retreat. He came to the third line of defense, looked at the corpses of several night demons and plague demons in front of the defense line, and asked the wolf mother, "Is there another enemy coming?" The wolf mother replied, "Yes, but it's not a big problem." She looked at Luo Guang's relaxed look and no injuries on his body. This was enough to see Luo Guang's strength. Victor in the team was even more itchy. If he hadn't been on a mission, he would have directly challenged Luo Guang. "You guys should go back to the rooftop. Those zombies are still thinking about their next move," Luo Guang continued. The Night Demon King lost a lot of elites and they didn't dare to pursue him for a while, so he returned to the third line of defense very easily. Wolf Mom was a little confused when she heard this, and asked, "Do you know what the zombies are thinking?" At the same time, she finally understood why no enemies appeared behind Luo Guang. Luo Guang opened the communication with Hope, and then told him that the zombies did not dare to chase him for the time being, so that he would not have to repeat it to Hope later. After saying this, he answered Wolf Mom's question and said, maybe he encountered a setback here, so he is not as crazy as before. Fortunately, the Night Demon King has no hair, otherwise it must have scratched a hand of hair and began to experience the trouble of hair loss. Although the specific situation of the battle is unknown, no matter what battle plan it sets up, or even directly uses the number to try to exhaust Luo Guang's physical strength, Luo Guang's light point is still standing. This made it start to curse Luo Guang with its mind power. Luo Guang did not block the other party or curse back. It's not that he has a good temper, but that the Night Demon King did not inherit the ability and memory of swearing after he transformed from a human to a night demon, so the Night Demon King's curses sounded like a child in a rage, without any offensive power. After venting, the Night Demon King calmed down and made up his mind. No matter how much it cost, it had to deal with Luo Guang. This was a link that it could not bypass in its rule of the world, Harlan City. Yes, for these night demons, this Harlan City was their entire world. A long howl sounded from the underground area, and then as if it was contagious, all the night demons roared. All the Harlan zombies except the night demons were stunned, and then their eyes turned red and they ran towards Luo Guang's position. Luo Guang's ears moved. The zombies were running and the movement was not small. The whole hotel seemed to be shaking slightly. He picked up 2 prepared light machine guns and aimed at the direction where the enemy was coming. The zombies' roars covered the sound of Luo Guang's shooting. Luo Guang held the trigger and fired at the headshot line, but he could not stop the zombies from approaching him. Suddenly, the surrounding walls were broken, the floor under his feet was smashed open, and Luo Guang's side was filled with hideous Harlan zombies. Luo Guang just fired the bullets of the light machine gun in his hand. When he threw away the weapon and jumped up, he took away the 2 light machine guns full of bullets on the sandbags, and then fired 360 degrees to shoot at the surrounding enemies. From this posture, the other party seemed to focus on himself, and did not take this opportunity to go to the rooftop to stop Hope's retreat. "Hope, how long do you need to evacuate all of them?" "At most 10 minutes. In fact, there is no need to transport the soldiers back to the base." Hope now lets the soldiers take the rope directly, and directly land on the ground after leaving the blockade of Harlan City, and then the helicopter will return to the hotel to continue transporting people. But the last wave of evacuation requires bringing back human technological products such as computers, so it takes more time than before. Got it? Luo Guang held the hot light machine gun barrel with both hands and smashed it at the surrounding enemies, while breaking through to the place where there were fewer enemies. Although the enemy could not break his defense, he did not need to stand there and fight hard. The straight knife in his hand chopped off countless zombies' heads, and the blade that was originally impervious to water was stained with a faint red. Although Luo Guang did not use the electric range skill to clear the enemies, he could kill the zombies as soon as they entered the attack range with only the straight knife in his hand and another combat dagger. In addition to saving energy, he did this to hide his strength from the Night Devil. Apart from the zombies that were killed by bullets, Luo Guang could no longer remember how many zombies he killed. He only remembered that as he chopped, the bodies of the enemies fell to the ground, and in some places, the bodies were even piled up, blocking the enemy's attack path and temporarily suspending the enemy's attack. Suddenly, a suicide bomber appeared from the corner, and Luo Guang killed it with a dagger before it activated the self-destruction. The body was also tilted, and the zombies on the other side were directly blown over. This was just an appetizer. These suicide bombers walked slowly, and now they finally arrived, surrounded Luo Guang from all sides, and detonated themselves without hesitation. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Evolution begins with Resident Evil. Author, Wei Tongmiao. Chapter 357. The blood mist produced by the self-exploder instantly filled the entire space, and at the same time, the flying bone spurs and other fragments flew everywhere, covering the position where Luo Guang was originally. The night demon who commanded these self-exploders to encircle and detonate looked over there, and it seemed that there was no movement, but for the sake of safety, it still sent the plague demon to charge over there to confirm whether the enemy had been eliminated. This is the disadvantage of only one-way communication. The Night Demon King knew that Luo Guang's light spot was still there, but he didn't know that the Night Demon used the self-exploders to encircle Luo Guang and self-destruct. So its subordinates couldn't ask it whether the enemy had been solved, and get the answer that the enemy was still alive. Luo Guang's own defense is now enough for him to take the enemy's self-explosion attack without any damage, and the 28 points of endurance attribute also include physical defense. If the enemy's self-explosion flew out something like steel balls, it might be able to penetrate Luo Guang's hardened armor and then be blocked by his skin. But if you use bone spurs, the material of that thing is much more fragile than hardened armor, so it will break into pieces when hit, and it can't penetrate hardened armor at all. However, Luo Guang did not choose to take the damage of the self-explosion. If he could avoid it, he would be a fool. Even if he would not be injured, he didn't want to be covered in blood. So he jumped directly from the spot and punched through the ceiling in the posture of Ultraman, avoiding the self-explosion attack while escaping from the encirclement of zombies. Now he is only one floor away from the rooftop. Luo Guang, the people on the rooftop have been evacuated, and you are the only one left. Come up quickly. Hope left Luo Guang's position on this last helicopter. On the other side, the Echo Squad and the Wolf Squad also reported that they successfully boarded the plane. Hope was the last one to stay. He tied up the baby Night Devil with his men and left him on the rooftop to attract the Night Devil King before getting on the helicopter. After that, as long as he cooperated with the satellite surveillance of FBC, he could confirm whether the Night Devil King appeared on the rooftop. The helicopters that evacuated in the same batch did not leave after picking up the people. Not only the Wolf team and the Echo team were on it, but also the FBC soldiers were waiting for Luo Guang. They circled around the hotel at a safe height and distance, and the soldiers on it held weapons to block the enemies that might appear on the hotel walls or rooftops. This was because after Luo Guang went to support, the FBC people could clearly feel the pressure suddenly reduced, and the casualties were reduced a lot. This alone was enough for Luo Guang to gain the respect and sincere help of all the surviving soldiers in this battle. You just raise the altitude, and throw a rope to me when I appear, Luo Guang said as he ran to the rooftop. If he wanted, he could use the method just now to break through the ceiling and reach the rooftop at any time, but this would expose his ability, so he ignored this option. He commanded the two GIMZ teams to act in the rear during this mission, and he did not carry a battlefield recorder on his body in order to keep the secret of his combat effectiveness. It was no problem to shoot accurately, but it was terrifying to crush so many zombies in close combat. Anyway, he ran very fast, so he didn't need that little time. Some night demons did break the ceiling and jump up, but they couldn't catch up with Luo Guang at all, and could only lose their lives in vain under Luo Guang's R-9 pistol. Those night demons were still faithfully losing their lives to execute the orders of the Night Demon King, while the Night Demon King was staying in the sewer next to the underground area of the hotel very safely at this time. He didn't lead the charge and didn't even enter the battlefield. The baby was indeed his child, but for the current night demon race, using adults or plague demons to transform into night demons is the fastest. For the entire tribe now, the most important thing is to quickly increase the population, so natural reproduction is a relatively useless means of reproduction for them. At that time, because the night demon was giving birth and couldn't move, the Night Demon King directly led the tribe away and let them fend for themselves. In the end, the Night Demon King didn't expect his child to survive, but that was it. He didn't plan to save him. Luo Guang directly knocked open the door of the rooftop, and Hope immediately threw down the rope ladder on the helicopter. Hurry up, Hope soon saw the plague demon following behind him. Those night demons who couldn't stop Luo Guang were scared behind again. The people on the surrounding helicopters squeezed the trigger and vented bullets on the heads of the enemies behind Luo Guang. Luo Guang grabbed the rope ladder and shouted, "Go!" The helicopter still needed time to accelerate to fly away from the rooftop. A plague demon that was very lucky to break through the rain of bullets had caught up and was about to grab Luo Guang's ankle. Bang! But Luo Guang quickly pulled out the R-9 pistol and directly dealt with the plague demon. The helicopter flew away from the rooftop, which also marked the fall of Harlan Hotel again. Luo Guang climbed the rope ladder onto the helicopter and heard Hope ask, "How did you stop so many zombies?" This was what surprised Hope the most. He really didn't expect Luo Guang to be able to hold off the enemy so perfectly. With enough bullets and accurate shooting, we can suppress those zombies. Although Luo Guang spent most of his time in close combat with zombies, guns are much more efficient than knives, especially the heavy machine gun, which can kill a bunch of zombies with one shot, so the number of kills is also higher with guns. In this mission, Luo Guang killed nearly 8,000 zombies in total. It doesn't seem like much, but it took less than an hour for him to arrive at the hotel and start providing support, including getting in place. This chapter is not over, please click on the next page to continue reading. If he were given a few more heavy machine guns, perhaps the result would be over 10,000. Hope had no doubts when he heard this. According to the survivors of the first line of defense, Luo Guang was very powerful and could shoot accurately with a light machine gun in each hand. If you don't need to change ammunition, but directly change the gun, it can indeed exert its maximum combat effectiveness. "Hope, when are you going to blow up the building?" Luo Guang suddenly asked. According to the plan, the building should be blown up when the Night Stalker appeared, but in his mind, the location of the Night Stalker had not moved since the beginning of the general attack. Although the other party has been cursing in an attempt to harass him and influence his fight, it has no effect. Because Luo Guang was thinking and judging the opponent's character and style through the instructions given by Night Devil while fighting, he automatically filtered out Night Devil's swear words. The other party is a cautious Night Devil, this is his most intuitive judgment. Because as long as there is any change, the Night Devil King will always gather his Night Devil troops immediately, and then send ordinary zombies to explore the way, and then formulate new strategies after confirming the situation. Didn't I say that before? Do you have any ideas? Hope, who was looking at the rooftop crowded with Harlan's zombies, was stunned when he heard Luo Guang's words and asked. Hope had said that as long as it was confirmed that the Night Stalker appeared on the rooftop to reunite with his children, he would blow up the Harlan Hotel. Luo Guang considered the words for a while, organized a good conversation, and then said, "Are there any restrictions on this detonation?" "Satellite signal reception, as long as the receiver on the rooftop is not destroyed, it will be fine. It can be detonated at any time. But there is a high probability that this will not be used. I started the timing device after I evacuated, and it exploded on time 2 hours later. Satellite receivers are easy to destroy, and if something goes wrong, it will be troublesome, so there is a way to use a timing device to detonate it for safety. The bomb, which is evidence of violating the rules set by the Turkish Z government, cannot be kept for long. Diego does not want to send FBC soldiers to fight for the meaningless Harlan Hotel, so he thinks of blowing up the hotel tonight. There are only those laymen above who don't understand, shouting nonsense about where they fell and how they got up, and treat soldiers as numbers and tools for their own interests to be sent to meaningless battlefields. For this, Morgan also suffered greatly, and the Portland incident was just a small test. After the Harlan incident, he planned to attack the parasites on the FBC and completely turn the FBC into his sharp blade. "Are there any surveillance cameras in the hotel?" Luo Guang asked again. Although Hope didn't know why Luo Guang asked these questions, he still patiently replied, "It's useless. The surveillance equipment we left behind when we evacuated the hotel before was destroyed. Even if we are not discovered, it will be covered with lichen and block our view, clean things up." After collecting the information he needed, Luo Guang said, "What if the Night Devil never appears on the rooftop?" "Oh, so that's what you're worried about?" Hope smiled. "Yes, but since you have set a timed detonation, there is nothing more I can say. I will leave it to fate." Luo Guang didn't know that the other party's real purpose was to blow up the Harlan Hotel, so he asked how the other party could confirm the Night Stalker. Did it show up? But it was rare for Hope to see Luo Guang, a person who left a deep impression on him, and he didn't want to just stop the conversation and go back to the base. He took the initiative to ask, "Do you think Night Devil will not appear on the rooftop to save the monster child?" Luo Guang thought for a moment and said, "No, that monster seems too cautious. Although there is no evidence, I don't think it will fall into the trap easily as a Night Devil that can use various tactics." "You mean it's too obvious for us to tie that thing on the rooftop?" "I think provocation can be used to describe my approach." Hope misunderstood Luo Guang's statement and thought that the other party said that he and Diego's plan was too obvious. Exposed. Luo Guang had seen the tied little night demon before boarding the helicopter, and asked, "You didn't leave a body, are you worried that the night demon wouldn't be interested in the dead child?" Hope replied, "That's right, because when we investigated the Night Devil's lair, we found that they have the habit of using corpses to create Night Devil cultivation tanks." Luo Guang nodded and said, "The plan is good, but you think too much and ignore one thing." "What's the matter?" Hope looked like he was asking for advice. "There is no need for Night Stalker to pick up the child himself, just send someone to do it." Hope was stunned for a moment, then slapped his forehead and said, "Yes. We missed this point. No wonder you asked about the hotel's internal surveillance, but it will always go back to its lair in the hotel, right? If it was Morgan, he might just kill the little Night Devil and hang it on the outer wall of the hotel. This is called provocation." Luo Guang thought in his mind and said, "The sewer environment is more suitable for night demons, and do those night demons really have the concept of home? Well, it doesn't matter, in the end it still depends on our luck. Yes, I hope we can deal with the Night Stalker and his men. The enemy evolves and develops too fast, and we can no longer allow the opponent to develop." Although this plan was originally just to prevent FBC from wasting their lives in this hotel, as various new information about Night Stalker came, both Diego and Hope thought about whether they could take this opportunity to solve the problem of Night Stalker together. Possibility. Unfortunately, luck was not on the human side this time. After leaving Harlan City, Luo Guang took the GIMZ people and parted ways with Hope and the others, returned to the BSAA camp, and went to the combat command room to find Samus to report the mission. This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading. Jill is also here. After she knew that Luo Guang, who was originally teaching people to deal with the zombies in Harlan, led the team out without saying a word, she stayed here and was ready to support her boyfriend at any time. Samus felt that Jill seemed to be a little overly worried, so she told Jill that she believed in Luo Guang's ability, and that he would be even more powerful with the Echo Squad and the Wolf Team, and there would be no big problems. Hearing this, Jill smiled bitterly and told him that Luo Guang liked to act alone. As the two were chatting, Luo Guang pushed the door in. He looked at the two and said, "Good evening, Jill, are you still awake?" "I knew it as soon as you sneaked out of the camp." Jill was dissatisfied with Luo Guang for not asking her to carry out the mission together. In fact, it was the female military doctor in the camp who told her about it. But she did not stop Luo Guang from doing it, because she deeply felt that Luo Guang had become much stronger last night, and she did not think that those monsters could pose a threat to him. This kind of rearguard mission is too dangerous. Hearing Luo Guang's words, the people of Echo Squad and Wolf Squad looked at Luo Guang. They did not encounter any danger, and even felt a little bored. "When you join BSAA, you will definitely be in trouble." Jill made a harsh statement and decided to tie Luo Guang to his side at that time. "Luo Guang, are you going to join B.S.A.?" Crisp heard this news for the first time. Luo Guang replied, "Just to be a consultant, I will continue to be an intelligence officer at G.I.M.Z. Samus nodded. The boss told her about Luo Guang's next arrangements, so that GIMZ and BSAA would also have a stable communication channel. After Luo Guang briefly explained the situation of this mission, he heard Samus ask, "What's the matter with that bone spur gun? How powerful is it?" "It feels a little weaker than a 9mm pistol bullet," Luo Guang answered truthfully. "Wait. Luo Guang, you are injured," Michela, the field doctor of the Wolf Team, said in surprise. Jill was still instinctively nervous when she heard this, but she soon remembered the tactical clothes Luo Guang made for her. In a previous mission, she was chasing terrorists who were trading biological viruses and was hit by stray bullets, but the clothes easily blocked it, so she relaxed again after she reacted. Luo Guang shook his head and said, "I'm fine, the bulletproof vest blocked it." Because he had said before that the Night Demon Cube would let the Plague Demon attack with a gun, so it was very normal for him to wear a bulletproof vest, and no one asked much. Then he spoke out his inner thoughts, saying, "In fact, whether the Night Demons use guns or bone spur guns, it is not a big problem for humans. The most troublesome thing about the Night Demons in Harlan City is their discipline, tactics, and evolution speed, so no matter how much it costs, all the Night Demons in Harlan City must be solved." Everyone nodded in agreement. Samus, who had the inside information, said, "When the FBC reported this, it had already attracted the attention of the United Nations investigation team. They are negotiating with Turkey." After a pause, she glanced at the people around her and said, "Turkey is asking for a high price and raising the price, which has made other countries unhappy. Now a certain country has issued a condemnation, saying that Turkey is manufacturing weapons of mass destruction, so they want to sanction and send troops to Turkey. This country is the lighthouse country, so Samus saw the Echo team here and said it without hesitation. As for the source of the intelligence, she was not worried that the people behind the other party would find out. Turkey is not scared, right?" Although Luo Guang said this with a smile, he knew that Turkey would not cry until he saw the coffin. "That's right, but the representatives of the lighthouse country in the investigation team pointed to the direction of Harran and said that the evidence of weapons of mass destruction was right in front of them, so the other 4 permanent members all expressed their willingness to participate in sanctions or send troops to intervene." As soon as Sams finished speaking, laughter rang out in the conference room. Obviously, everyone had guessed Turkey's fate. Evolution begins with Resident Evil. Author, Wei Tong Miao. Chapter 358. The next day, Luo Guang led the demon extermination team to set out early in the morning. By the way, this demon slayer team was named after him. Although they went to the Harlan Hotel to perform an urgent mission last night, they did not feel tired and said it would not affect the mission this morning, so they did not delay the action. When Luo Guang and the others go to Harlan City, let us first talk about what happened after the explosion of Harlan Hotel. The explosion was okay, but the sound of the hotel collapse was too loud, which quickly attracted the attention of the Turkish military. After the Turkish military confirmed that the collapse of the Harlan Hotel was the result, they immediately went to the FBC camp to find Diego for questioning. Apparently, they guessed that the FBC had done something good. Diego just pretended to be stupid and didn't admit that the problem was on his side. He even said that the Night Devil detonated the gas under the hotel and caused the entire building to collapse. This hotel was specially built, how could it collapse so easily due to a gas explosion? Suleiman, the head of the military, was so angry that he reported it directly to his superiors, and finally reached the ears of the Turkish president. But it is a pity that the Turkish government has been well educated by the P5 countries and has relented to allow BSAA and FBC to use more powerful weapons and equipment. In the end, Suleiman got the answer that he would not go into details about the Harlan Hotel and follow the F.B.C's statement that the Night Devil exploded the underground gas and caused the hotel to collapse. So in the end he could only go back to his camp sulking. On the other hand, for the Night Devils suffered heavy losses this time. More than half of the Night Devils died in the collapse of the Harlan Hotel. In addition, tens of thousands of Harlan zombies were buried in the hotel. Among the ruins. This made it choose to recuperate after the collapse of the Harlan Hotel and replenish the number of night demons first. Luo Guang chose to land in a civilian area, then enter the sewer system, and then go to the new city to trouble the Night Stalker. Although there was a big battle last night, there are still many zombies in the new city. If you land directly, you will be immediately surrounded by the enemy. Moreover, the Night Stalker is there. If you take a helicopter there, you will be positioned by the enemy and ambushed in advance. The purpose of this mission was to eliminate the night demons entrenched under the new city and get rid of the Night Demon King. However, except for Gil, the purpose of the mission he told others was not that detailed. He just told them to hunt the night demons. In addition to Luo Guang, the people who carried out the mission also included the Echo team, the Wolf team, Gil, and a 4-person team sent by the FBC. Luo Guang was still able to confirm the location of the night demon. After he landed, the night demon made no movement and did not send the night demon to intercept him. Then let's start. Luo Guang was holding an M2 Browning heavy machine gun in his hand, which he took away when he got off the plane. According to the plan before departure, Luo Guang and Gil were at the front and led the team as the vanguard, while the Echo team was at the back and served as the rear guard. The Wolves and FBC troops were in the middle of the army, ready for encounters at any time. After walking nearly a kilometer, Jill asked curiously, "When you came here before, were there many zombies?" All of them used Bluetooth headsets to communicate, so they could also hear the questions Jill was asking. Luo Guang replied, "Not that few." "So what's the situation now?" the person from the FBC asked. Before they joined Luo Guang's demon-killing team, Diego had told them to ask questions, not to make their own decisions, and to obey Luo Guang's orders. "I speculate that the Night Devil will recruit all the zombies around it or in the Night Devil's lair, which is the new city, so there will be no zombies in the sewers of this civilian area." Luo Guang thought for a moment and replied. "Are you confident?" Gil, who knew Luo Guang's goal for this operation, asked. Luo Guang smiled and said, "We still have confidence. The problem is that it will be more troublesome when we retreat, because we don't know how those night demons and other zombies will react." In his plan, he was responsible for the beheading, while the others were more to solve the obstacles on his way to beheading, or to make up for it. Although the others were a little confused when they heard their conversation, they didn't ask any more questions. As soldiers, they just obeyed the orders. When the time comes, Jill, please be safe. Don't worry, I feel like I've become stronger again recently. Gil smiled slightly and said something else. But I don't want those zombies to stain your smooth skin. Luo Guang smiled. Sienna of the Echo team was a little unhappy. She felt that the other two had concealed things from her and the others. Now they were being stuffed with food rations while walking. She curled her lips and said, if it's like you said, zombies are gathering in the new city district, we are just going to poke a hornet's nest naked now, looking for death. You're right. You said last night's battle was boring, so going straight to Huanglong this time is exciting enough. Luo Guang looked relaxed and continued, don't worry, Samus has reached an agreement with FBC. We will have artillery support when we retreat, and it's time to tell those night demons the true strength of us humans. In his opinion, the previous actions of humanity were just playing house, so what he was most worried about had always been the blockade, rather than solving the Harran virus. Therefore, when he came to Harlan City, he immediately raised the issue of the blockade. The Turkish army did not participate in this artillery support because the relationship between the two sides has been a bit tense recently. In order to avoid the other side from making trouble, this artillery support was jointly provided by FBC and BSAA. This chapter is not yet finished, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. Can we really outrun those zombies? Don't forget that we are overloaded with double the ammunition. Xena doubted whether she could outrun her teammates. So you don't have to save ammunition too much. Anyway, you can't kill all the zombies even if you run out of bullets. Just leave enough ammunition for yourself to retreat. In this mission, Luo Guang still gave up the flamethrower when he set out at the end. He was worried that the zombies on fire would not stop charging and pounce on people, which would be troublesome at that time. Luo Guang continued, these are what we said at the meeting. Did you desert? And I remember that you, Xena, have good mobile design and blind sniping abilities. We will rely on you for the next retreat. Got it. Xena was a little helpless. The enemy was not the slow-moving stragglers in Raccoon City. The zombies in Harlan City were much more dangerous. Unknowingly, they were almost at the sewer in the new city area, and more zombies began to appear on their way forward. Luo Guang did not waste bullets and asked Victor from the Wolf team and Caroline from the Echo team to go ahead as scouts to open the way. Both of them are very good at fighting, so they can just deal with the few wandering zombies. Help! The enemy's large force is coming, but not long after, Luo Guang heard Caroline's cry for help from the headset. As for Victor, he still maintained his ninja style and did not shout for help. Everyone was refreshed and immediately formed a battle formation to ensure that they would not block the rays of their teammates. In addition to this function, it is also to distinguish the area that each person is responsible for, and to avoid wasting bullets by aiming at the same target as much as possible. Luo Guang placed the heavy machine gun against the wall, then took the light machine gun on his back and aimed it. Like him, Jill used the M249 light machine gun as the main weapon for this mission, while the others all used M401 assault rifles, and all used weapons with 5.56mm bullets. Victor and Caroline soon appeared in everyone's field of vision, and the zombies behind them were following closely. Keep running in a straight line, Luo Guang shouted in the communication, and then started shooting. The zombies that were shot would fall to the ground and trip the zombies behind them, so after he solved the first few zombies, Victor and the others successfully distanced themselves from the zombies. At the moment when the two rushed directly into Luo Guang's formation, Luo Guang immediately ordered, shoot. The sound of da-da-da echoed in the sewer. Although everyone used the single-point shooting method to shoot, with more people, it sounded like continuous shooting. The passage of the sewer was not spacious, and Luo Guang and his men did not face many enemies at the same time. All kinds of zombies were harvested like wheat. Each of you should confirm the number of remaining bullets, and then continue to set off. Luo Guang gave orders while throwing away the belt with more than a dozen bullets left and replacing it with a new one. Others holding assault rifles were not as wasteful as Luo Guang. After replacing the new full magazines, they moved the previous magazines to a different location and put the magazines full of bullets in the most convenient position. In the battle just now, Luo Guang did not find the existence of the night demon, and did not see the light of the night demon in his mind. The troops just now should not be the reconnaissance troops of the night demon king. These zombies are indeed not reconnaissance troops, but consumption troops. The night demon king still knew that Luo Guang was constantly approaching its position, so it guessed that the human side's target should be itself, and the response to this was to shrink the defense while sending various zombies to consume the enemy's bullets. As long as humans lost the help of guns, the Night Demon King did not think that his men would be defeated by humans, creatures with fragile bodies. The second wave of enemies soon appeared. Luo Guang frowned. He suspected that this was a conspiracy of the Night Devil to consume his and others' bullets. In this way, they needed to speed up their march. After clearing the enemies, Luo Guang replaced the new ammunition belt, carried the heavy machine gun, and said to Jill, "I will leave first, you lead the team to pick me up." Yes, Jill did not say that she would follow, but played the role of supporting Luo Guang behind her, so that her boyfriend would not have to worry about the future. After watching Luo Guang leave, the people of the FBC team said silently, "Are we disliked by him?" Luo Guang did not answer. Jill turned around and said, "He is used to acting alone, an old problem." Luo Guang's silence and Jill's lack of direct answer meant that Luo Guang tacitly agreed that he disliked others. Although they felt very unhappy, they could only hold back their depression when they saw the handsome appearance of the other party carrying a heavy machine gun and disappearing around the corner at a brisk pace. Another member of the FBC team said silently, "I told you to talk nonsense. Now you are embarrassed." After leaving the sight of the crowd, Luo Guang began to run faster. The M2 heavy machine gun weighed 38.2 kilograms even when it was empty, and it had no effect on him. Soon he met another group of zombies running towards him at another corner. At this time, he was still 2 kilometers away from the Night Stalker. Luo Guang held the heavy machine gun on his shoulder with his left hand, and held the light machine gun in his right hand, pulling the trigger and killing the zombies blocking his way. He ignored the zombies that would not threaten him, because he wanted to deal with the Night Devil as quickly as possible, instead of taking his teammates behind him deep into the enemy's hinterland, otherwise it would be a lot of trouble to withdraw at that time. This chapter is not over yet. Please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content later. And Luo Guang's operation obviously alarmed the Night Devil. Although the Night Devil could not know the location of each Harlan zombie, under its arrangement, it still knew the approximate location of the zombie group, so it could infer that Luo Guang was not entangled with the zombie group. As for the reason, although the sewer was winding, it could see that Luo Guang was constantly approaching its position. Wait. The Night Devil suddenly thought of a very serious problem. How did the other party know his position? In its cognition, there is no such thing as a tracker, and tracking is either smell or footprints. Since it had never met the enemy, it would not be tracked by the enemy by smelling its scent and following its footprints. According to its cognition, the only possibility was that the enemy could also see the light spot in its mind, so it knew its position. In this case, the enemy should be able to communicate with it through telepathy. Could it be because of the language barrier? The Night Demon thought. In fact, there was no problem of language barrier in telepathy, because what was conveyed was not words or language, but the meaning in the mind. Whether the other party could understand what he said was not a question that the Night Demon should think about now. It made a decision directly, leaving the other guys behind and running away alone. If the enemy could still accurately find its position, it would mean that the other party had the same ability as itself. Luo Guang, who was running, noticed that the night demon began to move, but he did not go too far. It made no difference to him. Anyway, the night demons passing by on the road were also enemies he had to deal with. As long as those Harlan zombies were not commanded by the night demon, they would be a mess. Luo Guang broke through 2 zombie groups in succession and was very close to the night demon's nest. The only full magazine was also replaced by Luo Guang's light machine gun. The flesh lichen had no effect on his running, because he directly put a layer of soft spikes made of hardened armor on the soles of his shoes, which could be converted into hard spikes to increase the lethality when the night kicked. Although the night demons didn't know why their king left without saying a word, since there was no order, they stayed in the nest to work. The collapse of the Harlan Hotel caused them great damage. In order to reproduce the tribe, they were working overtime to transform some suitable plague demons into night demons. Luo Guang suddenly rushed into the night demon's nest and immediately attracted the attention of the night demons and zombies. Surprise! Madfuck, Luo Guang shouted, and at the same time raised the light machine gun to attack the stunned night demons. The night demons instantly entered a state of rage. Although they didn't understand what the other party said, they all felt that they were looked down upon. The night demon mobilized all the zombies in the nest to attack Luo Guang, but Luo Guang did not pay too much attention to those rubbish, but went straight to the trouble of the night demons. No zombie here can block a 5.56 mm bullet with its head, including those night demons, who were easily caught up by Luo Guang and shot in the head. After dealing with 99 night demons, he smashed the head of the 100th night demon with a light machine gun, and then threw away the deformed light machine gun. Several crushers took advantage of Luo Guang's brief stop to surround him, trying to delay the enemy's pace, but Luo Guang suddenly accelerated when the enemy caught him, and rushed to the position of the next night demon with unpredictable steps. Night demons retained intelligence, and as they evolved, they also developed human-like emotions, such as fear. The few surviving night demons immediately left the nest and fled to their king, roaring for help from their king.